Imagine waking up in the freezing dark, trapped in the middle of the ocean. Our main character screams for his parents, but their ship is already vanishing into the abyss. Amid the wreckage, he finds his mother drifting. He reaches out, but a blood stain on her chest reveals the brutal truth. She is gone. Before he can even scream, a massive wave drags him down into the deep, where he watches the bodies of his family sink forever. But then, out of the darkness, his grandfather Jin Seoko, the leader of the massive Cheongu group, reaches in to save him. Even though he is riddled with gunshot wounds, the old man refuses to die until Taiha is safe. He realizes the parents did not drown, they were executed. With his last breath, the chairman hands Taiha a black fountain pen and tells him to find a lawyer named Kim In-soo. His final command is simple: no matter what happens, you must survive and take back the Cheongu group. In a final act of sacrifice, the old man straps a life jacket onto the boy and pushes him into the night. By the next day, an Italian mafia ship finds Taiha drifting. The crew wants to kill him, but their leader, Regina Salerno, is shocked when the child speaks fluent Italian. Taiha explains the attack on his family, but Regina is not interested in charity. She gives him one chance to prove why he should not be fed to the sharks. Using his grandfather's name and that pen, he proves he is an heir, promising that returning him will be far more profitable than his death. Regina calls the lawyer to cash in, but what they did not know was that this man was no ally. Kim In-soo is at a drunken party and offers the mafia $1 million to kill the boy immediately. He even threatens to frame them for the original massacre if they refuse. Hearing this betrayal over the speaker, Taiha realizes his own relatives were the ones who ordered the hit. As the rifles are aimed at his head, Taiha does not beg. He takes a knife and carves the mafia crest into his skin. He tells Regina that since his family wants him dead, she should take him in as her own. He promises total loyalty in exchange for the power to seek revenge. Impressed by his sheer grit, Regina welcomes him into the fold. 17 years later, Taiha is back. His quiet visit to the memorial is interrupted by a professional hit squad from Cheongu Security. Their leader Lee Jang-gu thinks they are on a rescue mission, but he has no idea who he is dealing with. Taiha is no longer a helpless boy. Moving like a ghost, he decimates the entire team with 2 knives, cutting through their armor like paper. Once the bodies are cleared, Taiha walks to a car trunk. Inside is the traitor, Kim In-soo, now old and pathetic. He begs for mercy, but Taiha's heart is absolute ice. He dumps $1 million in cash over the man, noting this was the blood money promised 17 years ago. The boy from that ocean is dead, and a monster has taken his place. He drops a lighter and the traitor goes up in flames. As the car burns, Taiha lights a cigarette, finally telling his family they can rest in peace. He is back for his crown and the path is paved in blood. Taiha starts by infiltrating AH Holdings, a shadow firm that handles the dirty work for the Cheongu group. He moves through the facility with lethal efficiency, neutralizing every armed guard in his way. After the room is cleared, he finds a cowering official. This man tries to act tough by mentioning the power of Cheongu. But our hero knows the truth. This firm is just a front for kidnappings and state-sponsored murders. He ignores the useless threats and moves to the back room. He finds 3 captives bound there. With a single throw, he severs their ropes and tells them to run and stay silent. Now, he turns his focus back to the man in green. He needs the schedule for the top executives, specifically for the emergency meeting he knows is coming. When the official refuses to talk, Taiha decides to lose his patience. He presses a blade to the man's eye. Later, he walks through the city reflecting on how much Korea has fallen. 17 years away, and everything is worse. After the war on crime ended with an assassination, the nation fell into a pit of corporate and criminal greed. The Cheongu group used violence and media lies to brainwash the public into thinking they were the good guys. While blending in, our hero stops for a pack of cigarettes. He runs into a man with purple hair reaching for the last pack. To avoid a scene, Taiha lets the stranger have them. The man follows him out and offers him a single smoke. During this exchange, Taiha's mafia instincts start screaming at him. He realizes this stranger is a monster, likely on the level of the killers he fought overseas. That man is Khan Heyman, a high-ranking member of the Osung faction. He eventually finds the bloodbath Taiha left behind. By looking at the surgical wounds, Heyman realizes the attacker is a true master of the blade. He calls a Cheongu executive to warn them. The man who killed the lawyer is now coming for the leadership. Between the scars on Taiha's hand and those surgical kills, Heyman knows he found his man. But as he slips into an alley, someone is following. Taiha decides to shadow He-Man, curious where a fighter of his caliber is actually headed. This is where it gets wild. They square off and the politeness from the store totally evaporates. He-Man is impressed he was followed, but his face turns predatory as he prepares for a bloodbath. Taiha draws his blades, and the two explode into a blur of high-speed violence. Steel clashes in the dark alley. Taiha strikes so fast that everything around them is shredded before He-Man can even blink. Facing a real predator now, He-Man looks up. There is Taiha, perched on a ledge, silhouetted against the cold moonlight. As the fight restarts, even a hardened gangster like He-Man realizes one thing. Cheongu is incredibly unlucky to have picked a fight with a monster like Jin Taiha. He-Man has skill, but Taiha has explosive speed. In seconds, the gangster is left defeated and bleeding on the cold concrete. Strangely, Taiha just turns his back. He-Man screams, asking why he is being spared and warning that leaving an enemy alive is a fatal mistake. Taiha stays completely dismissive. He has rules, plain and simple. His blade is only reserved for those directly connected to the Xianggu group. See, He-Man offered him a cigarette back at the store. To Taiha, that tiny bit of kindness just bought the man his life. Back at the car, Taiha notices a slash on his waist. It is not deep, but he has to move. He has exactly 32 minutes left to finish a revenge mission. 17 years in the making. As he drives, the stinging pain triggers a brutal flashback to the night his entire world went up in flames. He remembers his mother Yo-Hai Jang, shielding his eyes from the spray of blood while his father stood defiantly against a group of ruthless mercenaries. Through the screams and the storm, his mother gave him one last command: jump into the dark sea and survive. He followed that order and lived just long enough to see their yacht explode. That memory is the fuel for his absolute resolve. Meanwhile, at the high-security Gangbok Annex, the corrupt Jin family is holding a meeting. And let us just say the atmosphere is beyond toxic. The siblings, Juhi, Zhang, and Zhang Wan, are already bickering over a dead lawyer and who gets the biggest slice of the company pie. Their eldest brother and chairman, Jin Guho, finally shuts them up to hear a report from his son, Jin Shang. The news is grim. Xiang admits he has scrubbed the crime scene and silenced the witnesses, but there is a problem. He still has not identified the killer. This incompetence sets Guho off. He strikes his son, screaming that he only has a seat because the real heirs died 17 years ago, but Xiang just maintains a manic grin. He promises his father the killer is close and he will find him within 12 hours. But what they do not know, our boy is already at their doorstep. He knows this place inside and out. It is where the family has crawled for safety since his grandfather's time. Taiha realizes nothing has changed. Not their traditions, and definitely not their cowardice, even after nearly 2 decades. Since they murdered his parents just to steal a spot in this system, he decides to skip the planning. He goes for a direct assault, slamming his car full speed into the gates. The impact is massive. A total wreck. But Taiha just steps out of the smoking wreckage, completely unbothered. He moves through the elite security detail like a ghost, dropping them in one fluid motion. Inside the dining room, the family hears the crash and panics. But the real shock is happening inside. Suddenly, their own personal guards turn their weapons on the family. This changed everything. In a brutal betrayal, Jin Shang reveals he has already seized control. He mocks his father's terror, proving that Guo was right to be scared of his own son. With a chilling smile, Shang confesses the truth. He was the one who orchestrated the deaths of the original chairman and Taiha's father 17 years ago. As the family tears itself apart inside, Taiha stands outside, ready to pull the trigger on the final phase of his long-awaited revenge. Taiha crouches on the lawn after the crash. He is surrounded by guards who cannot believe their high-security estate is being taken down by just one man. But the real chaos? That is in the dining room. Jin Shang has decided to seize power once and for all, turning this family meeting into a literal slaughterhouse. When Chairman Guho tries to yell at his son for pointing guns at his own blood, he realizes the horrifying truth. Every sibling's personal bodyguard has been bought off. The guards, led by the scarred Park Junho, do not even hide it. They mock their bosses, citing low wages and 120-hour work weeks as the reason for betrayal. Even the head of security, Baek Jun-soo, stands down. He refuses to protect the chairman, claiming his loyalty is to the company, not the man. As things spiral, the fourth son tries to argue. A bullet cuts him short. The guards do not fear this family anymore. They open fire, turning the fancy dinner table into a blood-splattered crime scene in seconds. As the family is executed, Jin Shang casually walks up to his father. Strangely enough, the old chairman does not even look surprised. He admits he always suspected Shang was behind all those accidental deaths and divorces that cleared his path to the top. Guho only kept his son at a distance because he knew the boy was a predator. In response, Jin Shang reveals the darkest secret of all. He is the one who pushed the original chairman and Taiha's father into that storm 17 years ago. He mocks his father's cowardice, pointing out that Guo helped the hit. When Guo claims the committee will never recognize a violent coup, Shang just gives him that unsettling, predatory smile. He explains that Taiha is making so much noise outside that he will be the perfect scapegoat for this entire massacre, and with that, he executes his own father. While the execution finishes inside, Taiha is busy carving a bloody path through the elite security forces waiting for him outside. He can tell these elite guards are a different breed. They are way stronger than the average thugs. But he is just getting started. Alright, you and I are jumping into a story where 17 years of mafia training makes you a god. These guys? No threat. But then, that old wound from He-Man starts acting up. Just as Taiha slows down, the heavy hitters arrive led by the chain-smoking Kim Il-suk. One captain, Kim Cholu, sees the opening and throws a punch so hard it literally creates a shockwave. Taiha knows he can't hold back anymore. He ignores the pain and pushes his body past its limit. He becomes a literal ghost. One blur of speed later, and he's dropping elite guards with spinning kicks and lethal throat strikes before they even realize he's moved. Taiha kicks open the dining room doors and stops cold. It's a bloodbath. Jin Chong is just sitting there, perched on a table surrounded by the very relatives Taiha came to finish. Chang greets him like a long-lost brother, even laughing at Taiha's life as a hitman. Taiha stays stone-faced at first, but then things get chilling. As Jin Chong rants about some past interruption, his voice hits a specific, frustrated note that triggers a core memory. That voice, it's the same mercenary from the night of the shipwreck, the one who coldly ordered the yacht to be blown sky high. This isn't just a greedy relative, this is the man who murdered his parents. Just like that, Taiha's calm mask completely shatters. Pure, murderous rage fills his eyes. Sensing the shift, Jin Chong drops the act and gets ready for a war. Our hero doesn't hesitate for a second. Blade in hand, he's ready to end the revenge mission he crossed the world for. Jin Chong just mocks him for being disrespectful. Taiha isn't listening to the trash talk, he's thinking. He realizes Chong knew he was alive in the Salerno Mafia this entire time. Chong needed a fall guy for his bloody coup. He timed this whole massacre perfectly to coincide with Taiha's return to the country. It's a trap, and it's a nasty one. With a snap of his fingers, Chong sends in 2 elite killers, Hang Yoon-hyuk and Park Junho. These guys aren't your average mercs. They're the elite muscle of the Chaeyoung group. Taiha knows this just became a life-or-death struggle. Yoon-hyuk opens fire and Taiha deflects the bullets like a phantom. But these guards? Their teamwork is actually terrifyingly perfect. Park Junho lands a kick that rattles Taiha's bones. Suddenly, another memory hits. This man was there during the original massacre 17 years ago too. Disaster strikes. That old wound starts bleeding out, and Taiha can feel himself losing speed. This is bad. He's desperately looking for a way to get to Jin Chong, but things go from bad to worse when chief-back Jun-soo joins the fight. Jun-soo slams a strike down so hard the floor shatters. Now Taiha is trapped between 3 high-level monsters. Jin Chong watches with a sick smile. He reveals these men were trained specifically to kill someone with Taiha's speed. His plan? Frame Taiha as the mass murderer while he plays the hero who took the killer down. As they pin him down, Taiha's mind drifts back to Italy. 4 years ago during his brutal training, he remembers Regina Salerno scolding him for how he dealt with traitors. Even for a mafia boss, his methods were too artistic. But Taiha had a reason. A traitor has to die so horribly that the rumor spreads like a plague. That's how you stop betrayal. Regina told him he wasn't just a killer. He was something way scarier, and right now, that inner monster is waking up. Air blurs as Taiha moves. He shatters Park Junho's face and slams him into a stone wall like he's nothing. He spins, slashing through another defense and snapping a sword with pure, raw power. The guards are panicking now. They completely underestimated him. But Baek Jun-soo stays calm, ordering his men to get Jin Chong to the helicopter while he handles the young master himself. The chopper starts to lift off. A desperate Taiha lunges for the door, screaming the name of his enemy. Baek Jun-soo blocks the path with a brutal palm strike to the chest. Taiha collapses, coughing up a spray of blood. Thinking they've won, the security team jumps on board. Jin Chong looks down, hits a remote detonator, and levels the entire building in one massive, fiery explosion. He laughs like a lunatic, convinced Taiha is finally dead, buried in the ashes of the family legacy he tried to save. But you and I know our hero is harder to kill than that. As the chopper gains height, a bloodied Taiha actually leaps onto it. He bursts into the cabin and stabs Jin Chong right through the leg. His face is pure madness. There's no way he's letting his parents' killer get away that easy. Backed into a corner, Jin Chong grabs his pistol and fires 3 times at point-blank range. He screams that he, not Taiha, is the real protagonist of this world. The impact of the bullets sends our hero flying out the door. He falls through the night, crashing through trees and slamming onto a truck before rolling into a cold stream. This looks like the end. He floats there, vision fading to black. That's when a mysterious, silver-haired guy on a bike stops and stares down at him. With his very last breath, Taiha reaches out. He begs the stranger to save him. He's not ready for his story to end. Revenge isn't finished yet. Enter Huang Gray, a silver-haired kid living in a tech-filled room in the lawless Wangchonggu district. He's a digital info broker, spending his nights trading secrets and voice recordings of corrupt politicians for cold, hard cash. He's got one recording of a politician named Kim caught abusing his power during a breathalyzer test. Pure gold. Gray wants 200 units for it, but the buyer lowballs him with 30. You can feel Gray's frustration through the screen. He's sitting on massive dirt regarding the Chaeyoung group, but because he's just some kid, no one takes him seriously. He doesn't have the status to make the info stick. Gray lives above a small restaurant run by Aunt Nana. She was a medical professor who took him in after he became an orphan. His father was a researcher who got killed in a staged car accident after trying to blow the whistle on the company. Total cover-up. That trauma fuels Gray's hate for corporations, but he's forced to stay low riding his skateboard to school just to blend in. Welcome to the lawless slums where gangs fight for every scrap of territory. Now, a new threat called the Yabori faction is knocking right on Aunt Nana's front door. These thugs want her building for half its worth. They harass her every single day to break her spirit. A gangster slams a knife into her table to scare her, but Nana doesn't flinch. She pulls her own blade. But things take a dark, violent turn the moment our young genius Gray heads to school. He comes home to a nightmare. Nana is beaten and broken. This changed everything for Gray. He's done playing nice and decides to offer himself as bait to infiltrate the enemy's heart. He leaks a scandalous photo of a top director with a rival boss. He knows this will light a fuse. Just as planned, suits snatch him off the street. A punch to the gut and he is tossed into a black van. They drag him to an office where a brutal investigator from Ah Holdings begins a savage interrogation session. The investigator mocks Gray's father and grabs a hammer to smash his teeth. But Gray, he just laughs through the blood. He looks this monster in the eyes and calls him a worthless rag. The hammer is inches away when a panicked subordinate bursts in. We have got a level 1 emergency. The facility is under siege. Gray is gagged and thrown into storage with other captives, but then the intruder appears. It is the absolute monster himself, Jin Taya. Our hero cuts through the door like butter. He tosses a blade to the captives and tells them to run for their lives. Gray watches in awe as Taiha walks through a hallway covered in bodies. Seeing this absolute power, it completely flipped Gray's worldview on its head. He finally realizes that all his data is worthless without a sword to strike with. Back home, he digs into a stolen security folder to find his next move. He finds the secret. During emergencies, the big bosses hide out in a fortified safe house on Bukakan Mountain. While tracking them, a police report hits the radio. A murder at a secret residence? Gray knows this has Taiha written all over it. He jumps on his bike and pedals like his life depends on it. Under a full moon, he spots a helicopter. Suddenly, gunshots ring out and he watches a body fall from the sky. This is where things get real. He finds Taiha in a stream, bleeding out and desperate. The hero is barely hanging on. Gray carries the dying warrior back to Nana's place. Only her medical skills keep him from the grave. Later, Taiha wakes up in a room full of monitors, completely confused. Taiha demands to know who he is. Gray turns with eyes full of fire. I am Gray, he says. I have been waiting for someone with your power to turn my information into a death sentence. For days, he survived in this lawless zone. He's a broker for raw data, serving the underworld and the elites alike. He might be young, but he is already a legend in his field. Gray reveals he is the kid Taiha saved from the suits. He tracked the hero down using nothing but his face. Taiha looks at his scarred hands. He has been out for too long, and time is running out. He tells Gray to find a person, but the boy shrugs it off. Finding someone requires luck, serious cash, and connections. Gray reminds him of a simple truth. We saved your life and paid your bills. It is only fair that you help me out first. Taiha does not argue. He just grabs his coat and prepares to vanish back into the shadows. Gray tries to stop him, but Taiha is on a mission. He leaves Gray with a terrifying warning. Stay out of my path, or the next kidnapping will be the least of your problems. Outside, Taiha enters the kitchen. The rich smell of boiling pork fills the air. Nana warns him to stay still. You took a .22 caliber bullet and have a broken rib. One wrong move and a bone could tear through your lungs or heart. Taiha promises to pay her back, but the tough lady just scoffs. Don't come crying to me if your stitches pop. In the alley, Taiha reaches into his pocket and finds a phone that is not his. Gray's voice crackles through the speaker. Your old phone was trashed, so I got you a new one. Plus, an earpiece with a 12-hour battery life. You are welcome. Your top button is a hidden camera, Gray adds. Taiha threatens him again, but the boy does not care one bit. He breaks the news. The massacre Taiha caused is all over the TV. The entire country is calling it an act of terror. They are in a war zone between two rival factions. Because things are so unstable, Gray offers a deal. A partnership. He will help Taiha's mission now, but in return, the hero has to solve a problem for him. If he refuses, Gray will hand him over to the enemy himself. Realizing he is trapped, Taiha agrees to the test. This leads them to a high-security vault company in Seoul. These places run on total secrecy. It is the perfect spot to hide things the world should not see. Inside the vault, Taiha grabs a bag packed with fake passports, cash, and a bulletproof vest. Gray watches through the camera, confused that there are no guns. But then, he sees it. Blood is dripping onto the floor. Taiha is buckling under the pain. He feels weak, just like when his old trainer used to beat him. Despite the agony, he asks for the location of broker Kim Pil-jung. Gray confirms the broker is trying to flee. He is desperate for a ship to China to escape the heat. But with the royal family dead, the cops are everywhere. Even a pro broker like him is backed into a corner. Taiha tells Gray to bribe the merchants with 10 times the cash. We are going to trick him. When Gray asks if they are escaping, Taiha's blade comes out. I am going there to end a traitor, he growls. The trap is set at a dark cathedral as the broker arrives with millions. He enters a confessional booth, acting tough to hide the fact that he is shaking with fear. This is about to get messy. Pil-jung sold out his soul to settle a gambling debt, betraying his closest ally to a ruthless syndicate. But just as the truth spills, the cathedral doors burst open with armed thugs ready for blood. From the safety of his greed, Pil-jung mocks the hidden figure behind the screen, demanding the secret smuggling route. But then, the voice that answers stops his heart. It belongs to the very friend he just betrayed. The dead man has returned. He fumbles for his gun, begging for mercy by bringing up their 10-year bond. Taeha doesn't blink. He bursts through the wood and silences the traitor with a blade through the throat. Blood hits the walls, and Gray starts screaming through the earpiece. He begs Taeha to run, terrified his broken ribs and bullet wounds will kill him first. But our hero doesn't care about the pain. He steps out into the aisle to face the army waiting for him. What they didn't know. Taeha knew guns were forbidden in this sanctuary. He tells the thugs to pray because they are about to meet God. Seeing the bats and knives, he realizes these men didn't come to talk. They came to end him once and for all. This changed everything. No more mercy. He doesn't see them as men or mercenaries, just obstacles that need to be removed. In his car, Gray is drenched in sweat, watching through a hidden lens. He knows Taeha is operating on pure willpower, hiding a shattered body. With fractured ribs and a bleeding gut, he watches the thugs charge the altar, blinded by the greed for the cash inside. Even broken, our protagonist is a lethal weapon. He knows he has to crush them instantly to keep the situation from spiraling. Moving with impossible speed, he ignores his wounds and drives a steel blade into the first man's neck. In one fluid motion, he slashes a second throat and sends a third man flying with a bone-shattering back kick. Another attacker lunges, but he sidesteps, delivering a brutal knee to the stomach. The aisle is a graveyard of groaning men, and Taeha stands over them, clutching his side. He sees the fear in their eyes, but the smell of nearby cash keeps them from running away like they should. Suddenly, a gun appears, an unexpected wildcard. Taeha pivots on his heel, putting everything into one final high-spinning kick. The impact is so fast the shooter is airborne before his finger can even reach the trigger. Gray stares in absolute shock. How can an injured man possess such monstrous power? The room cleared, Taeha calmly cleans his blade and calls for backup. Knowing the boy is outside, he orders him in to grab the money. Gray steps into the sanctuary, nearly gagging at the smell of iron and death. Walking past the fallen thugs, he finds our hero slumped in a pew, pale and drenched in cold sweat from the sheer exertion. Gray offers to find help, but suddenly a blade thuds into the wood right between his fingers. The air turns freezing. Taeha questions the boy's true motives, noting that while his clothes were changed, his gloves stayed on. Those gloves hide the Salerno family crest. Taeha knows the boy has already seen the mark of the underworld on his skin. He forces Gray to face the truth. He is Jin Taeha, the legendary killer known as Vendetta, with a $5.5 billion bounty on his head. Gray admits he knew. He didn't want the money, he wanted Taeha's strength for a personal score he couldn't settle alone. He explains the hell of hiding from the Chianggu group, choosing to trade a bounty for a sword that could finally strike back. Taeha is blunt. The boy is talented but raw. He offers a choice: stay a small-time rat or step onto a much bigger battlefield. If the boy is willing to put his life on the line, Taeha promises to make him the greatest informant the world has ever seen. While this new alliance forms, we shift to a luxury hotel. Kim Jil and the powerful Khan Heyman are about to face the new king of the underworld. Jil warns his partner to let him do the talking. Inside, they find Jin Chang waiting with his elite shadows, ready for a power move. Back at the church, Taeha's eyes glow with a murderous fire. He'll use Gray's information for one thing: the total destruction of those who betrayed him. This changed everything. Every friend and every family member who turned their back on him, they are about to pay in blood. At the hotel, the tension is suffocating. The old guard is finally meeting the terrifying new face of the Chianggu syndicate. Kim Jil notes how quickly Chang called this meeting, especially after his family was just slaughtered in a brutal massacre. He suggests the man should have spent time mourning instead of jumping into business, but his tone is pure venom. Chang demands absolute dominance, silencing them with a single hand. He sits back while classical music fills the room, cold and haunting. Strangely, Chang raises a fist with an intense, dramatic expression that leaves the other leaders looking at each other in total confusion. To break the weird tension, Jill starts clapping, pretending he was just moved by the music the whole time. Chang asks if he recognizes the song. Jill notes the playing sounds a bit awkward, implying that Chang was the one actually performing it. Our rival confirms it. He won a competition with this piece in the 6th grade but quit because his wrists couldn't handle the strain. His expression darkens. Every family member who sat in the audience that day, they are all dead now. This strikes a massive nerve with He-Man, who can't stand the arrogance radiating from across the table. He reminds Chang that he called to warn him. Jin Taeha is not a normal man, and this entire meeting should have been cancelled. But Chang cares more about respect than his own life. He ignores the warning, demanding He-Man put out his cigarette or else. Chang scoffs at the man's education, explaining that emergency rule number 1 is a sacred tradition even he can't break. He tries to play off the stolen money as a quiet cleanup gone wrong, pointing to his ornate cane as proof of the price he paid. He-Man isn't buying it. How did Chang survive a night where even the elite headquarters guards were literally slaughtered? When asked why the attacker spared him, Chang just smirks. Maybe that crazy terrorist has a rule against friendly fire. That insult hits a nerve. He-Man snaps, shouting that he would never do anything to dishonor his organization or his parents. Chiang just keeps mocking him, saying he's jealous He-Man still has parents to worry about. Jill finally cuts in, asking who actually took care of the attacker. Chang points to Baek Jun-soo, the former chairman's personal bodyguard. He confirms he dealt with the man. Because of the bodyguard's legendary reputation, Jill accepts it. But then, Chang asks for zero money. He only demands that the owing faction stays completely silent. Specifically, he wants He-Man to deny ever seeing the attacker, no matter who comes asking questions. This makes zero sense to He-Man. Why is Chang working so hard to hide the identity of the person who destroyed them? As the meeting ends, Jill lights a cigarette, but tension spikes when Baek Jun-soo puts a hand on Chang's shoulder to shut him up. This public display of control frustrates Chang, but he tries to maintain his dignity, warning the elders that he will be the next chairman. Jill doesn't care. He tells Chang to put his head on the ground like a common punk before walking out, demanding a better ashtray next time. Once they're in the elevator, Jill finally reveals what he's really thinking to He-Man. He explains that Chang is only this reckless because he was never taught how the real world works. This convinced Jill that Chang planned the whole massacre just to grab power. Then he drops a bombshell. Our protagonist, Jin Taiha, is still alive. Jill knows the bodyguard has a code against killing, meaning the man lied straight to Chang's face. Luckily for the Oang faction, they have a lead. He-Man remembers the attacker mentioned being back in Korea after a very long time away. He-Man wants to recruit this monster to swallow the Chang group, but Jill decides it's better to just kill him. He's offended that Chang used them as bait, and he wants revenge for his men's honor. Meanwhile, back in the suite, Chang is left alone. While fixing a drink, he starts reflecting on his late father's uncanny ability to read any situation. He realizes the bodyguard's story felt off. Taiha was strong enough to jump onto a moving helicopter while wounded. No way he's just dead. Since no body was found, he asks his silent guards the one question that matters. Is Jin Taiha still alive? Baek Jun-soo claims he didn't let him go on purpose. Instead, he frames Taiha as the one who actually murdered the former chairman. Chang doesn't care about the truth, he just needs his path to the chairmanship cleared. He simply notes that they wouldn't have made it this far if Baek hadn't finished the boy off properly. When the bodyguard mentions Taiha has grown surprisingly strong, Chang loses it. He shatters a glass in a rage before refocusing on the big board meeting. He reminds Baek that whether Taiha is dead or alive, the bodyguard is now too deep in this conspiracy to ever betray him. Soon after, Chang prepares to leave by helicopter. He's intercepted on the rooftop by Moon-young, a bloodied guard who's desperate after a recent demotion. Moon-young was a bodyguard for the immediate family, so being reassigned to a mere director is a total disgrace in his eyes. But Chang shows zero empathy. He mocks the man for getting beaten so easily and tells him to be grateful he wasn't disposed of entirely. As the chopper takes off, the resentful guard is left behind while Baek tells him to wait for a call. Scene shift to the restaurant. Inside, our boy is finally eating a proper meal. He and Gray start dissecting the young informant's mysterious background. It turns out Gray's father was a senior researcher, and the secret data he left behind changed everything. Using a specific profile picture, Gray was able to bridge 17 years and recognize our hero in an instant. Taiha is impressed by the kid's sharp mind, but Aunt Nana is the real anchor here. She slams painkillers on the table, scolding them for lounging around. The air turns heavy when Taiha looks Gray in the eye and asks if he plans to betray him. In the mafia world, traitors are a plague, and Taiha's gaze says he'd kill them both. Gray is visibly shaken by the sudden freezing coldness in our hero's eyes, but Aunt Nana understands. She knows trust doesn't come easy to a man raised by killers, yet Taiha reveals a bit of his logic. He figures anyone hated by the own faction can't be all bad. He eats a piece of meat with a small smile, deciding that if they do betray him, he'll handle it. Suddenly, the restaurant door slams open. Baksu and his thugs stroll in, complaining about the heat and the lack of air conditioning. He mocks Nana even though she paid her debts, and then he tries to act tough with the new face at the table. Our hero stays focused on his meal, staring at a piece of kimchi and wondering if Korean vegetables got bigger while he was gone. His silence just makes Baksu angrier. As Gray leaves for school, we see a flashback of the promise he made Taiha. Don't ever kill anyone in this specific village. Gray explained the district's delicate balance. Years ago, a brutal war between the factions was ended by a ceasefire managed by the local gang. Now, this local gang is forcing residents into a housing cooperative just to get more power for the upcoming redevelopment. Gray sees right through it. He knows the mayor is bought by the Owen faction, and this protection is just a slow-motion robbery. Back in the present, things finally boil over. When Baksu ignores Nana and raises his hand to strike her, our hero's patience completely evaporates. 10 seconds after Gray leaves, Taiha explodes into action, blocking a hit and tossing those thugs straight onto the pavement. Gray turns back to see the gang groveling in the dirt. He is fuming about that broken promise while Taiha stands there, already calculating his next move. It hits him. His past 30 strategies were useless because they did not account for Jin Chong's specific brand of pure insanity. To win, he must strike where it hurts. The board of directors. Since the redevelopment project is the source of their power, Taiha decides to tear it down from the inside. He demands a meeting with their leader, ending up at a building covered in protest signs. There he meets Yoon-si, the pink-haired second in command. She laughs in his face, asking if he really thinks he can start a war all alone. But then, our hero just lights a cigarette with a smirk. He is not here for a bloodbath. Not today. He just wants to talk. He stands calm amidst several unconscious guards outside the headquarters. It is a sight that puts Yoon-si on total defense because the pavement is literally littered with her fallen soldiers. She does not believe for 1 second that he only came here for a friendly chat. Even with snipers locking onto him from every rooftop, he stays completely chill, puffing his smoke with one arm still in a medical sling. He tells her he only talks to people on his level. Meanwhile, he realizes this entire district has been turned into a massive fortified military base. He knows that if even one spy manages to get inside these ranks, their whole intelligence system would fall apart. It makes him wonder if they are already using some brutal disciplinary system to keep order. Yoon-sori is not impressed. She asks if he is some corporate bootlicker before threatening to put a dozen bullet holes in his head. Our boy clenches his fist. Every disgusting thing he suspected about this place is actually happening right before his eyes. Suddenly, the vice leader known as Tank leaps from a building, creating a massive impact on the street. But strangely, when Taiha tells him to get out of the way, the giant actually obeys. This leaves Yoon-si screaming betrayal just as a thug prepares to unload an AK-47 right into Taiha. Before any shots fly, Taiha teleports in front of Yoon-si and grabs her drink. He tosses the filth away, telling her that drinking trash is why her life is a mess. He just turns and walks away. Yoon-sori is screaming in the street, but Tank just watches with a smirk, recognizing Taiha as a true monster from the war days. Later that night, we see Taiha and Gray at the marketplace, using a drill to fix the door at the restaurant. Since Nana saved their faction in the past, Yoon-si and Tank eventually show up at the shop to pay their respects. The mood flips fast as Yoon-si happily hugs Nana. But then, the shop owner starts aggressively squeezing her cheeks for always breaking the restaurant doors. Gray explains that Nana saved the gang by healing their old boss, but Taiha is watching the whole thing with suspicious eyes. He realizes Yoon-si might just be a puppet leader because her own men treat her with zero respect. Suddenly, Yoon-sori flips onto the table and slams her boot down, shattering the piece in an instant. She wraps a vibrating wire around Taiha's neck, daring him to repeat himself. But our hero does not even flinch as the wire hums against his throat. Yoon-sori reveals a dark secret. Those snipers from earlier, they were not there to protect her from him. They were aiming at her, the boss. Taiha finally sees the truth. The truce is a lie, and she is being controlled like a puppet. He catches the live wire with his bare hand and asks who is really forcing her to buy up these houses. When he mentions the name Chianggu, her shock confirms everything. But get this whole shadow play is being run by a truly sadistic figure. Inside a luxury villa, director Hong Ingu, a key player for Chianggu, watches a man get mauled by a pet lion just for failing a business deal. This guy is pure evil. When his snipers report that a stranger spotted them instantly, Ingu is shown a photo of our hero. Recognizing worthy prey, he smiles and gives a chilling command. Bring Taiha in alive. Back inside, our hero does not waste a second exposing the rot at the center of this district. He reveals that the Chianggu group is the secret hand pulling the strings to destroy Neighborhood 3. Since he knows her group is compromised, he calls out Yoon-sori for failing to get rid of the spies inside her own gang. She tries to use her secret Kevlar thread to restrain him, but our boy just slices through the invisible fibers like they are nothing. She realizes she is completely outclassed. Especially when our hero reveals he is a professional at hunting down Chianggu operatives. Even with his help on the table, Yoon-si stays defensive. Luckily, Aunt Nana steps in and promises that our hero can handle this crisis. But the young leader is not convinced. She thinks this mess is too deep for just violence to fix. She warns him that a few deaths will not stop a corporate machine before storming out. Later, Aunt Nana reveals what is actually at stake. She tells him the real problem is Hong Ingu, a sadistic director pulling all the strings from inside Chianggu Electronics. Ingu is holding the old boss hostage in a secret hospital wing. That is how he forces the entire gang to do his dirty work. Only they know the boss is still alive. If word of his death got out, the village would start a suicidal war. But get this. Private mercenaries are listening to everything. These killers are perched on the rooftops, using high-tech scopes to track every single move our heroes make. They see everyone in the shop as witnesses and plan to execute them all. But that is going to be their very last mistake. Moving like a ghost, our hero materializes right behind the rooftop sniper. He silences him instantly, pinning his hand to steal the radio and start his lethal infiltration. He checks in with the squad, calmly promising them that he will arrive very soon. Next day, Director Hong is power-tripping at the hospital. He treats Suri with absolute cruelty, even stabbing her unconscious father with a fork just to watch the heart monitor spike in pain. Because this man has everything to lose, he keeps Suri in line with pure terror, grabbing her chin while calling her worthless trash. He demands she bring him our hero by sunset, but as he steps into the elevator, he realizes his elite mercenaries aren't answering. To him, they are just useless bugs. But then his arrogance vanishes. What he didn't know? Our hero is already waiting right behind him. Before the director can even blink, his ear is sliced off and sent flying. While Hong collapses in a bloodied heap, our boy steps on the ear and pulls down his mask. He reveals the mercenaries are already gone, holding up a fistful of their dog tags as proof. Since this coward thought money made him untouchable, our hero decides it is time for a brutal reality check. He shoves the cold dog tags into the director's mouth, pinning him to the wall with a chilling promise. From now on he will visit every single day to deliver a new wound. Hong is now living in total terror. He tries to flee through the hallway, but our hero intercepts him, sending the man crashing to the floor. The routine of violence is set, and the director can only beg. Our hero kneels and drives a knife straight into his thigh. He explains that since the thigh is mostly muscle, it will hurt like hell but won't be fatal. This is just a light injury compared to before. He flicks the blood away, promising to return tomorrow. Meanwhile, the corporate war heats up at a formal dinner. Jin Chang explains that the board of directors is completely split. Since words won't sway the impartial members, Chang believes they must be persuaded through the sheer success and power of their next operations. He pressures director Hong about the redevelopment project, demanding that the young bloods outperform the old guard at any cost. He makes it clear. Fail before the meeting and there will be no mercy. Hong is trembling. He is caught between a corporate monster and the physical beast hunting him from the shadows. Later, Hong limps to his car in pure agony. He snaps his glasses, swearing to destroy the maniac who keeps attacking him. When his driver asks where to go, Hong violently kicks the seat, screaming insults for even being asked a basic question. But then, the driver smirks. Hong realizes with horror that our hero has already taken the man's place. Since Hong was disrespectful with his feet, our hero decides to slash his leg once again for having zero manners. Blood sprays the car. Our hero calmly walks away, leaving Hong to scream in despair, wondering why this nightmare won't end. By day 7 of this torture, our hero realizes director Hong is at his absolute limit. He heads to a dark industrial room to meet the local faction. The local thugs are furious. They believe his actions will start a war that will undo all the hard work they spent driving the company out. One man even suggests killing our hero to prevent another conflict. Our boy is unfazed. Using a cigarette, he explains Error 307, a digital blockade used to freeze the bank accounts and internet of their enemies. He points out that while residents suffer, this faction has been too cowardly to use their weapons to protect their own families. Prepare for a showdown. His ultimate goal? To seize the director title for himself. But what they didn't know? Hong still has options. He meets with Go, the CEO of an elite mercenary group. While eating steak, Go mocks the director for being humiliated by an outsider. Hong hides the attacks. He is betting everything on the new chairman's appointment to secure his own path to absolute power. He calls it a stroke of genius. But he warns the mercenary if this redevelopment project fails, their partnership is dead. But Go did his research. He reveals our hero is actually Vendetta, the premier executioner for the mafia in Italy. He describes him as a monster with no known name, famous for being the absolute best in the entire business. Since a nuke like this appeared in Korea, Go says they need a countermeasure. He demands a massive fortune to hire someone who can match him. Go introduces his trump card, a man named Jerome known as a Wang. Since Jerome is one of the few men to face our hero twice and live, he is the perfect counter. Director Hong is visibly skeptical. Why would they ever hire a man who already failed to kill our hero before? Go explains that Vendetta is infamous for being relentless. He recalls a rainy jungle where a blood-splattered hero stood over his target. The target fled to the deep Amazon, but our hero lived off bugs for a month just to emerge with the traitor's head in his hand. Since Jerome escaped a predator like that, Go demands a staggering $700,000 upfront, $300,000 later, plus fees. When the director asks for more help, the mercenary demands double pay. Imagine needing enough firepower to start a war. Instead, Hong calls for 200 kilos of ammo, which is actually a massive pallet of 50,000 won bills. A mountain of cash that screams early retirement. Hong knows spending over $1 million on one man isn't their usual style, but he is more than happy to pay for a productive chat that ends in a total bloodbath. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, you and I see our protagonist doing some cold mission analysis. Gray just scored the blueprints to director Hong's massive estate. How? Simple bribery. These subcontractors have zero loyalty to the company, so they were happy to go under the table for some quick cash. Taiha stares at the screen, looking completely neutral. Deep down, he knows his grandfather would be turning in his grave seeing how easily this company's security was sold out to an outsider. As Gray digs through the schedule, he catches something off. A gap in the records that doesn't make any sense. The first baseman is missing from the plans. Structural labels reveal B1GRC, a reinforced soundproof concrete bunker often used for wild animals or illegal chemical storage. Before heading out, Taiho whispers a secret favor. It leaves the young informant looking like he just saw a ghost. Gray practically jumps out of his chair. Why would our hero suddenly need an item like that? He has it at home, but he never pinned Taiha as that type of guy. Our protagonist just pulls on his jacket, stone-faced. Survival tools don't have a type. You use whatever keeps you alive. Final orders. Watch the CCTV for intruders. As he walks into the night, he is intercepted by Hwarong, the vice leader of the Abori faction who has been waiting for him. Hwarong is a veteran from the 90s revolution. He can tell just by looking that Taiha is the real deal, and he demands to know exactly who he is. When Taiha stays silent and mysterious, the gangster drops into a fighting stance. He is ready to eliminate this threat. But our hero is chillingly calm. He realizes Hwarong is old school, a former member who prefers a fair fight. He gives the guy a friendly tap. Keep the village safe while I'm gone, he says. I'll pay 10 times what the company offered. By 10 p.m. he arrives at the luxury villa. Taiha moves like a ghost. He neutralizes the guards, hacks the keypad, and slips through the dark living room toward a hidden stairwell. Suddenly bang! A heavy metal door slams shut, locking him in. A motorized bolt seals his exit and a speaker on the wall crackles to life. But here's the thing, Director Hong's voice fills the room, mocking him. He knew Taiha was coming because he had been tracking his every move from the start. From the safety of his car, Hong watches the video feed on his phone. He is laughing, thinking our boy was actually cheeky enough to think he could sneak up on him. To finish this once and for all, Hong opens a metal gate. Two massive predatory lions emerge from the shadows, hungry for blood. Hong explains through the speaker that while he had to play nice before, he now has the perfect excuse to burn the whole district to the ground. While Taiha gets eaten, a squad of elite mercenaries is already marching to ruin the district. He gleefully shouts for his pets Mimi and Uni to kill him. The beasts lunge through the air, but Taiha doesn't even blink. He just criticizes Hong for giving male lions such feminine names. He's not here for a fair fight with animals. He pulls a hidden handgun from his jacket and fires twice. Both lions drop dead instantly. Total silence. Hong is frozen. When he finally finds his voice, he's screaming in disbelief. Why is a legendary knife specialist using a gun? Taiha simply draws his tactical blade. The knife? That is specially reserved for humans. He mocks the director's comic book logic. Did you expect a fair duel? He cuts his medical sling, ready to hunt Hong down for real. Through his earpiece, he tells Gray to alert the district. As the director trembles in his car, he finally realizes the legends of the Aswang were true. Vendetta is coming. No amount of concrete or cash can stop him now. Gray delivers the grim warning to the leadership. The private military firm Peak is closing in. Gray shares the final message. Jin Taiha will return after he finishes his hunt. The thugs are in a pure panic, thinking their hero abandoned them. But Gray clenches his fist, full of resolve. This fight was always coming. Stand your ground now, or face total destruction. But the subordinates? They aren't feeling that confidence at all. Several men start losing it. They accuse our protagonist of starting a war and then running away like a coward. Gray tries to defend him, but an older thug gets right in his face. He mocks the boy's youth, reminding him of the brutal loss from the last war. Luckily, Sui-and Kim steps in. The former major shames them for their cowardice and leaves the final decision to their leader. Yunsori closes her eyes. She spent so long as a puppet for the company because she was terrified for her father's life. But the deception ends today. She prepares her signature Kevlar wires and apologizes to her men. The Yabber gang is taking their territory back for good. Meanwhile, Insect Go, the CEO of Peak, reveals the cold logic behind this brutal upcoming attack. Killing the residents eliminates their land rights. That means the construction company makes massive profits on luxury apartments. They're using the appearance of a vendetta as a legal loophole to bypass the gang truce and intervene with lethal force. Our hero is just the bait and the scapegoat. Taiha and the mysterious Asang will take the fall for the massacre. High above on a ledge, the killer Jerome, the real Aswang, watches with a predatory grin. The scent of war reminds him of the old days. Honestly, he is starting to find the situation in Korea very interesting. Drones take off for air support. These mercenaries have no rules, just the money. Elsewhere, Director Hong is becoming a total nervous wreck. He's screaming into his phone at Insect Go, demanding to know if anyone is doing their job. But you and I know, it's too late. Even with his guard promising the protection of a president, Hong is losing it. After getting stabbed that many times, paranoia is just his new normal. He slams the car seat in pure rage, feeling the man hunting him closing in. And honestly, he is right to be terrified. Right now, you and I can see our hero tailing them in a black sedan, using GPS bugs he planted on the director's vehicles. He's worried about his crew, but this hunt has to end now. When the mercenaries in a nearby van see him coming, they are stunned by his fearlessness. They open fire, and heavy rounds shred his windshield. But Taiha? He just ducks and swerves through the lead like a ghost. Surrounded and squeezed by enemy trucks, This has turned into a high-stakes game of survival at 100 miles per hour. Our hero floors it, smashing one truck before his own car slams into a wall. But a total wreck? That won't stop him. He slides out of the smoke, rips the car door off, and throws it like a projectile at a biker to clear the way. He drops onto another mercenary's head with a brutal strike, hijacks the bike, and tears down the open road. The mercenaries are screaming for their guys to open fire from the left flank. Taiha hits the gas, uses a truck as a ramp, and launches into the sky. He leaps from the flying bike midair and lands in a lethal crouch. The mercenaries are stunned. They thought they had him cornered. He stands tall, unsheathes his twin tactical blades, and calmly tells them it is finally time to get to work. The mercs are horrified to see Taiha on a roof without a single gun. They coordinate a strike, planning to crush him the moment he jumps down. But our hero is already several steps ahead of them. In a burst of speed, Taiha sprints toward the convoy and vaults the guardrail, vanishing before they can even pull their triggers. Suddenly, boom! He smashes through a bus window, blades already out, moving with that lethal speed he learned in the Italian mafia. He bursts into the front cabin. The driver is frozen in shock. 1 second there was a flying bike, the next, this monster is in his passenger seat. Strangely, our hero sits calmly and hands the terrified man a thick stack of 50,000 won bills. With a bloody grin, he tells the driver to floor it. This revenge mission, it's not going to take much longer. While our hero handles the convoy, the neighborhood defense begins. Gray spots 16 drones on his screen, and they're dropping low for an attack. Soo-in Kim realizes these are explosive FPV drones. The Yaburi gang's worst nightmare is officially hovering right above them. Seeing those drones triggers a dark memory for Soo-in about the nature of the previous war. He explains that the old legends fought with honor, like a medieval tournament. No one wanted to escalate the conflict. They kept the weapons small and the rules simple. And that was all because of the terrifying monster who used to rule this battlefield. But you and I know Peak wants this land fast. They've tossed out the old rules and are going for total war. Searching buildings would take days, so they're using kamikaze drones instead. Luckily, the Yaburi thugs are ready with their own electronic signal jammers. From the balconies, they jam the first wave, watching as the drones lose control and smash into the ground. But this was exactly what the mercenary captain Insik Go expected. He hears the reports and just gives a predatory smile. He laughs at the idea that some street thugs with jammers could actually stop a professional military firm. Suddenly, Gray's screen turns red. 100 drones fill the sky. Go just laughs. Those jammer guns have a limited range, you see. 800 drones are now spreading out across the sky. The captain is convinced that no one in this neighborhood is walking away alive. As the machines dive into vents and windows, Soo-in panics and shouts for a retreat over the radio. But he stops cold when he sees Yoon Suri. She is already perched on a high ledge, waiting. In a stunning move, the young boss stands in the swarm and reveals her true weapon. High-intensity Kevlar threads. Flashback time. She spent her missing years mastering this deadly wire technique, all to protect her father. She kept it a secret until now. She couldn't save him back then, but she is determined to make things right today. She weaves a web of death, and the drones explode behind her in a beautiful fiery dance. Insik Go can't believe his eyes. Furious, he screams for his men to send every drone they have and blow everyone to pieces. But then crash. A car smashes through the wall of his command center. It's Hu Yang, the heavy hitter known as the tank. He found the nest thanks to Soo-in's intel. Now he's leaping out, ready to dismantle these ground forces by himself because he's the crew's absolute heavy hitter. Let's take a look back. 10 years ago, the Yaburi gang was born from a simple need for survival. The world was changing, and the weak were targets. Gizobyun convinced a young Soo-in that they needed their own organization to stay safe. Bribing the law and holding their own turf was the only way to survive the changing times. Soo-in was a soldier by trade. He hated being a common thug, but he agreed to do the heavy lifting to keep the neighborhood safe. A simple agreement over soda cans, and just like that, the Yaburi gang was born. You and I are dropping into a war zone where these mercenaries just met their worst nightmare. Huang Li has them cornered. Panic sets in because these gunmen never expected to be hunted down. Hu Yang charges like a beast. The commander screams to aim for the legs, but it's totally useless. Huang slams a guy into bricks, then follows up with a punch that leaves him absolutely bloodied. But then, the rooftops come alive. Yoon Suri is watching over everyone as a sniper locks on Hwarong. Suri leaps from the shadows and uses her wires to silence that sniper once and for all. This whole operation is led by Soo-in Kim. He realizes the mercenaries are focused on the ground. He calculates the enemy movements. If the snipers are here, the drone station must be the center. Stick with me, because this deduction leads Gray straight to a black van with fake license plates. As Suri moves out, a gunshot rings. Insik Go emerges and grazes the shoulder of our boy. The commander mocks them with his shotgun. He wants Hwarong because of his dark past in Osang. Taking him out is the only way this mercenary reaches a national tier of fame and power. He threatens the girl, but Hwarong stands firm. Meanwhile, on the highway, the director is finally caught. Taiha is cold as ice. He plunges his knife into the director's shoulder to keep his promise. The director screams about spending $76 million to nuke the district, but Taiha does not care. Because for a man like Ingu, he honestly believes that money is the only ultimate power. He laughs like a maniac, promising to kill everyone. But Taiha understands a much different kind of strength. He explains that people with families to protect are the strongest. He sees the fury in Insuri's eyes. This changed everything. The director inadvertently created a force of vengeance that no amount of money buys. Taiha silences him with another stab. He forces him back, proving that fleeing abroad won't save him now. Back in the alley, the brutal fight between Huyong and Inseo is reaching its absolute breaking point. The commander fires his shotgun, but then Yunsori's wires suddenly wrap around his neck, stopping him cold. She vows to take his head as justice for all the innocent people he butchered in town. But wait, before the final blow lands, a new monster joins the fray. It's the elite killer Jerome. He kicks the commander to safety while mocking him for relying on drones like they're some toys. Jerome stands there with his staff, ready for war. Sori is stunned. Is this a new enemy? She watches intensely. Jerome just snatched a grown man out of her trap like it was nothing. For the mercenary leader, Jerome's arrival is a weird mix of pure rage and massive relief. He starts yelling about Jerome being late, but the killer just points toward a building nearby. He tells him to head to the base. Suddenly, Huarong slams Jerome against the wall, shocking everyone. Jerome just looks at Huang and tells the warrior to stay put so they can have fun. This gives the commander the opening he needs to scream for every single drone to take flight. His men are confused, but he knows the town's strongest fighter is currently occupied with Jerome. He orders a total massacre. Meanwhile, Jerome frees himself from the wall with one massive kick. Huang is sweating. He realizes Jerome just sent his 120-kilogram body flying with ease. If his kicks are this strong, that staff must be lethal. Huyong tells a panicked Sori to leave. He resolves to handle this freak personally so that Sori can go and stop those drones. She agrees, giving him 5 minutes to finish this before the entire base is completely overrun. Jerome tries to block her, but Huarong lunges forward with a massive impact to stop him. As she vanishes into the distance, Huarong feels proud. She's keeping her composure in her first war. Jerome laughs through the blood. He admits that those punches might actually make him kick the bucket. Huang is confused. How did he survive a direct hit? He demands to know where he's from. Jerome is from the Philippines. He learned the language for fun and a manic smile covers his face. Huarong stands his ground and starts trading brutal strikes with this new terrifying elite killer. As they clash, Jerome asks about his past with the Osang gang. We're about to see the truth. Huarong's mind drifts to a time of gang wars and brotherhood. Gizab was the anchor of the neighborhood while his squad fought for territory, but what they didn't know was how fast those days would fade into blood. Gizab wasn't a man who ran. He stayed to protect the elderly ready to die for his home. His dying wish? Protect the daughter. Protect the street. But then a massive slam from Jerome brings Huarong back to a painful reality. He joined the gang searching for power, but realized he was just a small fish in a sea of real monsters. It was pure despair. Now he gets it. Real strength doesn't come from a title, it comes from the people standing behind you. He stands up, bloodied but absolute. He's the tank who clears the path. He unleashes a ground-shaking slam right into Jerome's face, a blow fueled by nothing but conviction. Jerome's eyes go wide. Playtime is over. Jerome pulls out his staff and unleashes a blood-red slash that cuts through the very air. Everything crumbles. Huarong is down, surrounded by debris and defeat. But then, a voice cuts through the ringing in his ears. You did good work, kid. Huarong is broken on the ground, but Gintai has finally arrived. He looks down and says, let me take it from there. Despite the absolute beating Huarong just took, Taiha offers a quick word of respect. A few meters away, the monster responsible for all this violence is just waiting. Jerome just leans his staff over his shoulder, acting like they're old pals. He even jokes about how late Vendetta is to the party. Classic psycho move. This is critical. Taiha tells the wounded warrior to pull back. It's time for the heavy hitters to settle this personally. Huarong is clutching his shredded, blood-soaked shirt, but his pride is still intact. He insists he can still move. He's not done yet. Taiha sees that fire and gives him a mission. 1 block over, there's a black sedan under a street lamp. Inside the trunk, the tied-up director Hong Ingu. That's the real target they need to secure. The plan is simple. Taiha ends the fight here, while Huarong makes sure the hostage doesn't escape our reach. But Jerome isn't letting his prey go. He stomps a manhole cover into the air and bats the heavy metal disc straight at Taiha's head. This guy is absolutely built different. It's a test of raw power. Taiha doesn't flinch. He stays dangerously still until the metal is inches from his face. Jerome flips through the air for a follow-up, but our boy is faster. He draws his twin knives and lunges into the chaos. He ducks low. The heavy cover whizzes past as he closes the gap. He's moving with the speed of a ghost. They collide in the alley. Weapons lock, sparks fly, and Taiha stares Jerome down with a gaze that could freeze the sun. He is totally unimpressed. Rival? Please. Taiha calls him exactly what he is, nothing more than a creepy stalker with a staff. That only makes Jerome more excited. They trade a flurry of lightning-fast blows that echo through the streets like thunder. This is peak action. While the kings clash on the roof, the whole neighborhood is burning. The mercenaries launched a drone swarm, turning the night sky into a literal war zone of explosions and fire. Yoon Sori is watching from the edge. She's running out of time and bullets to keep those drones from killing everyone. Over at headquarters, Soo-yeon Kim is holding the line. He tells his men to survive. They just have to wait until that man returns. Hwarong reaches the sedan. He pops the trunk and there he is, the terrified director, Hong Ingu. This is the man who killed his friend. The man who ruined his town. For a split second, Hwarong is tempted to end it all by crushing the director's skull right there. If the boss dies, the war ends. Simple math. But a vibration from the rooftop above snaps his focus back to the mission at hand. High above, the struggle is so violent the buildings are actually shaking. This isn't just a fight, it's an earthquake. Our hero finds the gap. He delivers a bone-shattering kick that sends Jerome flying backward. Jerome just slides across the roof and wipes the blood away with a grin. He says Korea is a paradise for killers like them, before launching a counter that sends Taiha crashing through a nearby window. But the fall doesn't stop him. Taiha rolls through the wreckage and leaps back onto the roof just as Jerome descends like a predator on the hunt. While the titans clash, Gray is revealing the truth back at the base. It's time for you and I to learn the real story. Taiha isn't just some mercenary or a common criminal. He's the rightful successor to the massive corporate empire that actually started this entire bloody war. Gray notes that the most accurate title for him is the heir to the throne. You see, our protagonist was hunting the same target in England years ago. That's where he first met Jerome, deep in the darkness of a train tunnel. It wasn't a friendly meeting. The silence was shattered as Jerome was slammed into the brick wall with lethal force. But Jerome didn't stay down. He just smiled with a bloody grin. Taiha didn't hesitate, swinging his blades in a wide, deadly arc of steel. Jerome managed to block it with his staff. As a train roared past, he just sat there calmly while Taiha watched from the shadows. By the time the train was gone, the two of them had vanished. Just like that, the confrontation was over. Our hero thought he finished the job that night. He was wrong. Later, while chasing a traitor in Russia, Jerome appeared again. They fought mid-air, falling from a cargo plane through a clear blue sky. This rivalry is literally on a different level. High above the clouds, their blades sparked against the sun. Kicks, stomps, nothing could end this cycle of violence between them. Jerome fell toward the earth and simply refused to die. Now, here they are again, under the moonlight in the district where it all ends. Jerome is stronger than ever. He smirks through the blood and points out a tiny flaw in Taiha's form, and that is where the real nightmare begins. Taiha is fighting on borrowed time. Jerome sees it immediately. Those strikes from his right arm are just a bit too weak and slow. He laughs in our hero's face, mocking the legendary vendetta for getting sloppy enough to take a hit in this lawless wasteland. Jerome is obsessed. He thinks Taiha is his ultimate teacher, the only man who can push him to the brink of death to make him stronger. Jerome drops a massive overhead strike that literally shatters the pavement, kicking up a huge cloud of dust and debris everywhere. It looks like our hero vanished, but that was just a tactical distraction. Jerome thinks he has the win, until Taiha whispers directly into his ear. Our protagonist is moving with such insane speed that he looks like nothing but a flash of light streaking across the battlefield. Taiha evolves when death is staring him down. He pushes his limits and lands a final silhouetted strike, leaving Jerome a bloody and defeated mess. While Taiha handles business, Yoon Suri is scanning the streets for the last batch of drones, trying to keep the entire area clear. But her mission hits a snag when she spots a group of mysterious men unloading a body from a sleek black car. They spot her on the roof instantly, and she wonders if she is about to face an entirely new set of adversaries. Luckily, these men are own gang special ops acting on orders from Cheyenne Heeman. Back at the duel, Taiha sits atop Jerome's bloodied and broken body. Then, Cheyenne Heeman himself appears. The atmosphere turns tense fast as he admits he has been ordered to kill our protagonist right here. Heeman claims he is here to deliver a death sentence, but he does not attack. Instead, he just mocks him, asking what he should do. Our boy remains entirely calm. He realizes this is the exact same man he crossed paths with once before during his earlier missions. Taiha starts calculating. How did Heeman find him? Since this man is not one of Cheonggu's lackeys, Jintai deduces that Director Hong could not have tipped him off. Our hero knows if Heeman really wanted him dead, he would have used a silent ambush instead of stepping out under the streetlights. Recognizing him as a heavy hitter in the own faction, our boy acknowledges that Heeman is clearly on a special level. The gangster mocks Taiha's polite tone, warning him that causing trouble in this district is going to have some very serious consequences. Taiha tries to explain he did not start this fight, but then everything breaks. Jerome suddenly crawls back into the picture behind our protagonist. Even after that brutal beating, this absolute monster is back. He has a knife stuck in his chest and is spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Both Taiha and Heeman are genuinely shocked. The killer just grins through the gore, admitting he has never been closer to death. Our boy drops low to finish the job with a lightning-fast slash, but get this, Jerome was actually prepared for it. He pulls a flashbang from his vest and tosses it to the ground as one final parting gift for the road. The white flash lets the killer escape, leaving Taiha to shield his eyes and curse the man's zombie-like resilience. But then, a spear taps his throat. Heeman used the chaos to move in. He coldly tells our hero to wait his turn because Jerome was technically first in the line. Heeman raises his weapon for one massive, crushing blow. Our protagonist blocks it just in time. Metal clashes and sparks fly as their blades lock. Taiha realizes Heeman actually predicted his every move. Heeman smiles. He says he cannot track Taiha's speed, but he noticed our boy started the fight the exact same way as last time. He mocks him, saying there is nothing more embarrassing than being fooled twice, especially since Taiha is in no condition to keep fighting. Pinned against a building, Taiha realizes Heeman is the real deal. The guy is powerful and he has not even hit his peak yet. He realizes Heeman must be a major player in the own gang. Taiha pushes off to reset, looking at his opponent with brand new respect. He boldly points out that for all his skill, this gangster does not look like he has ever actually killed a person. That hits a nerve. Heeman leaps into the air for a vertical strike, screaming that he has at least beaten many to a bloody pulp. Our hero meets the attack, lunging forward with a burst of speed to pass his opponent right in midair. Instead of fighting, Taiha just walks away. He gives the stunned gangster directions to a hideout 450 meters to the northwest where locals are camping. He promises that while Heeman won't get a kill, he is going to find something way more rewarding waiting for him there. The Owing representative is left standing all alone, grumbling about how much he hates dealing with a guy like Taiha. While these two were clashing, the rest of the district has already fallen under the control of the Owing gang's special ops units. Radio transmissions echo through the streets, demanding all remaining mercenaries surrender right now or face total and absolute destruction. Inside a construction site covered in dead bodies, a bloodied insect Go hears the broadcast and realizes the Owing faction must have had moles everywhere. Nearby, Gray and a heavily wounded Suing Kim are hunkered down in a dark basement. Gray is desperately begging the older man not to pass out. High above, the mercenaries are paralyzed on the scaffolding. They are too terrified to move, fearing an ambush is waiting in every shadow. When a subordinate begs to retreat, Insect Go screams into his radio, instantly silencing any talk of backing down. With over 10 billion won on the line, he sees this as his one shot at the big time. He is not leaving. He vows to rip Gizio apart personally, believing Jerome will handle the rest. But what they did not know, his arrogance was his doom. Just as he grabs a shovel to end this, you and I watch a hand shoot out and grip his face. Hwarong survived. He is standing right there, bloodied, battered, but very much awake. He is absolutely livid that his life was valued at a mere 10 billion won. Hwarong lands a bone-shattering punch that sends Insect Go flying through the air like a ragdoll. The guy crashes through a brick wall, falling right through the building. With their leader down, Yunsori leaps into action, using her razor-sharp wires to shred the remaining mercenaries. As the dust settles on the metal walkway, she finally realizes it. The war is over, at last. 5 minutes later, Chan Heeman wanders into the hideout, completely dazed by the wreckage. He finds a calm Jin Taiha sitting with Yunsori and the bound director Hong. Our hero welcomes him in, officially naming the representatives from the neighborhood and the surrounding factions. The Chiangu group and the Osang faction are all here. With a smirk, our protagonist announces the fighting is finally finished. Now that everyone is at the table, he is ready to talk business. It is time to settle the redevelopment rights so everyone leaves happy. Out in the dark city, Heeman stands on a bloody balcony. He is trying to explain to his bosses that he was not tricked, but he knows he is the wrong guy for this. As he wanders through the dark, lonely alleyways, stressed by his duties, Jin Taiha steps out to offer him a light. Despite their bloody past, they share a smoke. Heeman admits he probably would not win a rematch today. But the gangster is confident. Give him 3 more fights, and he swears he will find a way to win. Taiha is not impressed. It is a shame Heeman only has 1 life to gamble. Before they part, Heeman asks how Taiha is even alive after that enforcer claimed to have killed him. Taiha just tells him to save those questions for their next meeting. Simple as that. As our boy heads down the stairs, Heeman warns him, "Let us see if he stays that arrogant when the next guy arrives." Moments later, the Osang vice president, Jaipil Kim, rolls up. Hwarong, the former branch leader, greets him with a deep bow, but Jaipil immediately scolds him for it. He reminds Hwarong that even though he left the group, he should not lower his head so easily. Watching from the sidelines, Hwarong is stunned. He recognizes Jaipil as number 11 in the power rankings. He is the mastermind who turned a street gang into a professional organization. Jaipil wins where violence fails. Hwarong realizes this is a much bigger threat than the Chiangu group could ever be. Now, here is where you and I need to pay close attention. Jaipil points a finger at the gag director Hong, refusing to talk until the man is set free. Yunsori is livid. She argues that Hong is a criminal who tried to massacre an entire village. Taiha tries to speak up, reminding them that Hong broke the deal. But Jaipil coldly tells our hero to shut his mouth. He calls Taiha an outsider with no business being there. He threatens to walk if he hears one more word. Since the deal depends on him, Taiha signals Yunsori to comply. Taiha pulls a knife and cuts the ropes. Hong scurries away, pausing only to thank Jaipil and swear that everyone is going to die a slow, painful death. With Hong gone, Yunsori slams the table. She demands to know why Jaipil is siding with a man who held her father hostage. Jaipil does not blink. He asks how he can believe her when today's war looks more like a street brawl started by secret backroom deals. He points out that Taiha hit Hong first at the hospital. In his eyes, this whole conflict was just the Yunsori gang using an outsider to pick a fight. Yunsori cannot argue with his political logic. Frustrated, she states that they are refusing any further negotiations. Jaipil adjusts his glasses and gives them 24 hours to look over a new deal. The room is left in a total deadlock. After they leave, Yunsori kicks a heavy spool in a blind rage. She realizes there is a rat among them leaking intel to Jaipil. Surprisingly, Taiha tells her she did a great job. Everything is going exactly to plan. Outside, Jaipil kicks Heeman out of the car for being a coward. This leaves the young gangster screaming in the middle of the street while the car just drives away. Suddenly, the car screeches to a halt. Our hero is standing right in the middle of the dark road. Taiha leans in and finally explains his real plan. He points out that if the newly freed director Hong suddenly went missing, the power vacuum would wreck the Chiangu group before their next big meeting. This breaks the rival alliance. Taiha reveals that Huarong was actually waiting outside to snatch Hong the moment he was released. Because our boy had the foresight to grab the hostage again, he now holds all the cards for a real negotiation. Impressed by his brain, Jaipil's cold look vanishes. He smiles and invites Taiha to sit beside him, finally treating him like an equal. Taiha agrees to the talk, but he is not getting in the car. He suggests they speak through the window since they are not that close yet. But Jaipil insists. It is not a trap, he just wants to move the talk to a high-end cigar lounge. Nice and civilized. Since Taiha is picky about his tobacco, he initially thinks this is just going to be a huge pain. Then the vice president mentions they have Toscanello Italian cigars. That hits home for our hero. With a sudden slam of the car door, he is inside before Jaipil even finishes his sentence. The drive through the narrow alleys of Seoul is a total study in contrasting personalities. Very tense. While Jaipil calmly mentions the 31 mph speed limit, our boy is focused on the clock. He tells the driver to step on it. This leads to a luxury lounge. Stick with me, this is where the real high-stakes negotiation finally begins. As the attendant brings over the tray, Jill Kim gives a polite nod while Taiha asks for matches to start his little ritual. Our hero picks out a specific Kentucky leaf cigar. He explains it was a laborer favorite, nicknamed the cigar of friendship because it is meant to be shared. By choosing the short smoke, Jill Kim realizes Taiha is sending a message. This conversation is not going to last more than 15 minutes. Cigars lit, Jill Kim finally drops the act. He admits the whole redevelopment project is actually a minor matter way below his pay grade. He only showed up because his man Heeman could not handle the situation, and he was dying to know why the guy who crushed the Chiangu royals was here. Taiha responds with a rare moment of honesty, revealing he nearly died fighting the Chiangu family. The only reason he is still breathing? The people in this district saved him. Since he is determined to protect his saviors, our hero lays down the law. Guaranteed housing, relocation to Gangnam apartments, and a total freeze on any extra costs for the residents. Jill points out the insane price tag. Construction alone is $3 trillion, meaning residents would get 10 times their property value. That is a massive burden. But Taiha does not blink. He suggests Jill's curiosity is worth the price. Strangely, Jill says it is not just curiosity, it is about the committee. He explains that 5 secret powers rule South Korea. There is Chiangu, the industrial giant, and the Oshang faction. Next is the ability-based criminal organization, then the Eternal Life sect, a religious group with massive political sway, the Dobang Association of Military Elites, and the Yan household who organize this balance. Jill fears the recent coup in Chiangu will wreck this decades-long peace. He points to one man as the true threat, Byak Jun-soo. While Chiang Jin has the title, everyone knows Jun-soo is the real monster. He is a superhuman who controls all the security forces. Now that Jun-soo is stepping out of the shadows, the Osang leadership believes he is just using Chiang Jin for his own twisted ambitions. Our hero realizes the truth. Jill wants him to take out both Kyung Jin and Jun-soo to restore the balance. Instead of answering, Taiha just stands up and thanks him for the cigar. He takes the silence as a deal to protect the residents. Jill gives him a warning. Anyone who learns about the committee and is not in it usually dies, so running is not an option. Our boy just smiles. He tells the vice president to watch out for the next board meeting. Suddenly, we are on the 31st floor of Chiangu headquarters. A normal day gets rocked by the sound of a fax machine. One female employee reads the document and goes into total shock. Meanwhile, at a hidden waterfall, the vice chairman is training when Director Jang arrives in a total panic with some news. He reveals Senior Director Hong will not be at the big vote, Instead, he sent a fax saying a proxy is coming in his place. The vice chairman is fuming, demanding to know who this proxy is. Meanwhile, back in Jiangxio where the protest banners still hang, Jin Taiha takes a moment. See, he was raised in the Italian mafia. To him, morning coffee is not just a drink, it is a high-stakes ritual. He picks a specific 7-3 blend, grinding the beans dark before pulling a perfect ristretto, drop by drop. He tells the group that the light crema on top is the real deal, the mark of an authentic Neapolitan shot. But the gang members? They hate it. Yunsuri and her men take one sip and recoil. It is scalding and way too bitter for them. Since the shots are served pure, Gray even jokes that it feels like his throat is literally on fire. Our hero does not care. He sips his drink, explaining that he needs this intense energy boost to kickstart his workday. When Sori asks if adding sugar is a crime in Italy, Taiha just tilts his head. He did not even realize they wanted any. The culture clash hits its limit when Sori tries to order an iced Americano. Taiha instinctively reaches for his knife. He is genuinely offended by the idea. Luckily, Aunt Nana jumps in to steer the talk back to the Osang negotiations. Thinking back to the lounge, our boy explains that Jill Kim actually accepted the first part of the deal. Because of this, the residents get free rent in the new apartments with zero extra costs during the whole construction. But Osang is getting their cut by taking half the property value. Plus, Jill added one more condition. Suri has to step down as boss. Jill is worried about Suri's specialized wire fighting style. He noted that only one person in Korea uses a weapon like that. Suri's training was cut short, but her connection to that famous mentor makes her a wild card that Osang wants to sideline. Sori admits she was scouted by the best and lived in a traditional house for training, but she mostly did it for the money. Past aside, Taiha insists that the Yaburi gang has to officially fall under Osang's banner now. Suri explodes. She refuses to work for the enemy that hurt her father, but Taiha stands firm it is the only way to save him. Her father is still in the Chianggu hospital. His life is forfeit the moment the company realizes Ingu Hong is missing. The tension breaks when Swan Kim and the survivors arrive. Suian agrees they cannot survive if the real Chianggu security comes for blood. He reminds everyone that the neighborhood only held on because of Sori's heart. But now, everything is about to change. Imagine a world where everyone is too terrified to move. But then, as the entire gang bows in deep gratitude, Sori is moved to tears by Jizub's rescue. To hide her emotion, she tugs her cap low and agrees to the deal. Then, she flips the script, calling for a massive celebration at the Bowman restaurant. While the gang cheers and gets ready for a wild night, our protagonist sits quietly in the shadows. He has already secured the fingerprints and stabilized the entire district. His master plan is finally complete. With a smirk, Taiha realizes it is time to take back his legacy. Meanwhile, in a speeding car, director Pyoto Jang is losing his mind with stress. As the vice chairman's right hand, he is frantically shouting into his phone, demanding to know where director Ingu Hong disappeared to. The news is grim. Despite every department searching across the entire Gangbuk area, Hong has completely vanished from the face of the earth. Things go from bad to worse at Hong's mansion. His 2 prized lions were found shot dead in their cage. This was no simple kidnapping. This was a cold-blooded removal. To make matters worse, the Osang faction just declared that Hong's recent moves broke their long-standing truce. Now, Osang is seizing every redevelopment right, stripping the company of its biggest asset. Pyoto Jang is left sweating, unable to make sense of the chaos. He always saw Hong as a talentless hack who only got lucky. He just cannot believe the man would be this reckless. Then, a chilling thought hits him. If Hong was murdered, whoever is showing up as his proxy today is someone far more dangerous. He looks at Vice Chairman Guang Huyang, who remains ice cold. The Vice Chairman only has one question: who is the name on that proxy list? Far from the skyscrapers, in a dark industrial room, Ingu Hong sits bloodied and broken. Our hero Taiha stands over him, casually scrolling through his phone, memorizing the layout of the corporate headquarters in Uedo. He is meticulous. He forces the terrified Hong to confirm the identities of the 15 board members who rule from the 60th floor. When Hong hesitates, Taiha suddenly swings a blade toward his eye, forcing a scream and a frantic confirmation. Hong begs to know what Taiha wants, but our boy just shrugs. He is not looking for info, he is just double-checking what he already knows. Then he drops a bombshell. Even if he lets Hong go, the man is already a walking corpse. Once the higher-ups realize Hong's incompetence lost them the district, he is finished. Taiha walks away, telling him to spend his last moments finding one reason he deserves to live. Outside, our hero prepares to leave in a black car, but he is intercepted by Sori and the rest of the crew. Taiha tells them to keep Hong alive as a political shield. They might need him if the Osang faction tries to play dirty later. Gray looks at Taiha with a serious face, remembering the promise that they would eventually step into a much bigger arena. Taiha taps him on the shoulder, confirming the plan, but warns everyone to lay low until the corporate retaliation blows over. With one final smirk, our protagonist drives off, heading straight into the heart of the empire. At the airport, 2 elite bodyguards wait for a private jet. One of them is chain-smoking from the sheer stress of the upcoming power struggle. With the proxy still a mystery, the two neutral board members now hold all the power. The bodyguards start reflecting on their own careers. One remembers being denied a simple raise, while the other recalls a desperate plea that was cold-heartedly ignored. They realize their only choice is to follow the next big captain. Suddenly, the first powerhouse arrives. Doyoung Han, a titan in a trench coat, descends from the plane. He is the idol of the security world. Hundreds of guards stand at attention, greeting him with a roar that shakes the tarmac. He holds the security seat on the board, a position reserved only for those who are monsters in both combat and politics. Meanwhile, in the southern sea, Jin Chong has flown a helicopter to meet the second neutral power, Heron Yan. She stands on her yacht, representing the legendary Yan household, a group of women said to be just as dangerous as Osang's best warriors. As she hauls a 900-pound marlin onto the deck, Jin Chong finally brings up the mystery proxy. Heron is stunned. The name on the list is Suyak Jin, the chairman's son who died 17 years ago. Jin Chong explains that a ghost has returned as a monster. To stop him, he asks the council for a massive bounty. He wants our protagonist dead, and the price is a staggering 20 billion won. 17 years ago, a massive fight broke out in a parking garage between the founding chairman and his eldest children. The siblings were furious. The chairman was leaving on a trip with his third son Suyak, and they demanded to know why he was being favored. But the chairman gave them nothing but cold silence. He called them insolent brats and drove away in a two-car convoy. Inside, Suyak was devastated, wondering how he would ever face his brothers again. His wife gently told him to stay present, even suggesting they buy a gift to smooth things over when they got back. While our 10-year-old hero Taiha watched from the window, the cars passed through the gate toward a sea of executives. Every single man bowed deeply, shouting their prayers for the chairman's safe return. The chairman hated the showy display, telling them to just focus on the company. As they passed the bowing men, Suyak began teaching young Taiha a lesson he would never forget. These guys were the hardcore loyalists. Men saved by the chairman himself, drawn in by his magnetic power and absolute charisma. We are talking blood oaths of allegiance here. Suyak knew this unbreakable bond would be Taiha's ultimate trump card in the future. Now, you and I are back in the present day. Our boy is reflecting on those legends while standing with Gray. He wonders if any of those men are still alive, asking Gray to scour his father's secret files. It's been over a decade, but Taiha remembers every name. There were only 20. Gray is skeptical at first, but then boom. He finds a retired soldier running a quiet little pub out in Yonggin. Our protagonist rolls into this traditional pub in Yonggin City and meets a smiling chef. He sits at the bar, asking for their absolute best dish, and the chef suggests the fresh mackerel. But the vibe shifts instantly. The second Taiha asks when the owner, Mr. Guanggu, is showing up. The air gets heavy. The chef claims he owns the place, but our boy sees right through the lie. That's a heavy-duty tactical blade, not a fish knife, and Taiha calls out the amateur disguise. The chef slams his blade onto the counter with a deafening crack, and then he lunges. They clash violently, and get this, Taiha's own knife starts cracking under the sheer pressure of the chef's strike. But before the real carnage begins, a man with a scarred forehead slides the door open. This is the real Guanggu. When his apprentice tries to warn him about the intruder, the old man just stands there in total shock. He recognizes our hero instantly. He bows with tears in his eyes, overcome with relief that Taiha is alive. This reunion triggers a powerful memory. He remembers being in a car 17 years ago. His father Suyak pointed at the driver and called Guanggu a true loyalist. Guanggu was humble back then, saying he was just a beginner. He promised to protect the young master with everything he had, no matter where life took him. Back in the now, Guanggu takes Taiha to a private office, thanking him for the visit. But then, he tosses a document into the trash and Taiha notices. Guanggu praises him for hitting the annex, but our boy thinks it was a total fail. Why? Because Chong Jin is still breathing. Taiha asks about the kid at the bar, and Guanggu explains Hyan Bin is his apprentice. Turns out, Guanggu's a secret blacksmith who's been training the boy for 8 long years. Taiha's impressed by the sharpness of that blade, but he can't stop thinking about the paper Guanggu just threw away. He remembers Guanggu holding that paper when he walked in. He tossed it without a second glance. Something is definitely up. Driven by suspicion, our protagonist grabs the paper. While Guanggu makes small talk, our hero realizes it is actually a bounty poster. He's a wanted man with a target on his back. Because of that stun at the annex, there is a 20 billion won price on his head. That's a massive target. From the shadows, our boy calmly reveals the truth. He spent 17 years hunting and executing every single traitor who tore his family apart. 17 years ago, in the suffocating silence of an industrial interrogation room, a bloodied Guanggu sat bound to a metal table. The eldest son, Guho, walked in, mocking the prisoner for his pathetic appearance. With the funerals for the chairman and his family over, Guho felt untouchable. He had successfully consolidated all the power for himself. He tried to play Guanggu, claiming the company recorded his absence from the yacht as a simple leave of absence to care for his mother, who was suffering from dementia. But this fake kindness? It only fueled Guanggu's absolute rage. He lunges from his chair, screaming at Guho to cut the act once and for all. Guanggu realized the whole situation was a setup. From the caregiver's sudden resignation to his mother's disappearance, it was all a calculated ploy to keep him away from his masters. Despite the accusation, Guho stays perfectly calm. He slides a notebook across the table, demanding Guanggu write down every loyalist who would refuse to serve the new regime. To make his point, he looks toward the shadows where Baek Junwoo is standing. Guanggu desperately asks whose side Junwoo is on. The gray-haired man just stone-faces him, saying he only serves the company. He's switched sides. Back in the present, Guanggu is trembling. He finally realizes the little boy he knew has grown into a cold-blooded professional killer. Since he failed to be on that yacht 17 years ago, Guanggu sees himself as a traitor. He tells Taiha he should be the next target. Taiha draws his blade, declaring he has zero excuses for traitors. He lunges with a heavy step, delivering a strike so violent that shards of metal fly from his own weapon. Our protagonist is shocked to see his weapon shatter, but Guanggu just smiles. He knew the blade was in terrible condition. He doesn't stop. Our boy slips past Guanggu's defense and transitions instantly into brutal, high-speed, unarmed combat. They exchange high-speed blows that create sparks on impact, and Guanggu is secretly in awe. He realizes that despite the darkness, our protagonist's predatory focus and speed are truly remarkable. He wonders just how much bloodshed Taiha had to survive to master such lethal transitions. The tension finally snaps when Guanggu yanks Taiha into a bear hug, declaring he would gladly die by his hand. Back in the office, he explains the dark logic behind his survival. He explains that after the yacht disaster, Guho carried out a massive purge, hunting down every single loyalist who pledged their lives to the late chairman. Guanggu was only spared because Junwoo stepped in, suggesting he be used as bait to lure out other survivors. Since 17 years passed without trouble, they seemingly forgot him. It looks like the company finally forgot he even existed. Taiha reaches into his coat and places a black fountain pen on the counter. He explains his grandfather wanted him to give this to their attorney, but because the lawyer turned traitor, Taiha had to put him down. Seeing that pen leaves Guanggu completely frozen in pure shock. It triggers one final, vivid memory of that interrogation room. Guho was mocking his loyalty to a dead man, claiming that even the family attorney had already switched sides. In this brutal flashback, Guangsu proves his loyalty through pure pain, slamming his forehead into the table until the floor is stained red with his blood. He screamed at Junwoo Baek, refusing to ever betray the man who saved him from a life on the streets. He wasn't backing down. That resolve left a permanent scar. Now, looking at our hero, Guangsu sees a flicker of new hope. The old chairman's dreams are finally coming to life. He tells our protagonist that it's time. He must step up and claim his rightful place as the next leader. Deep inside headquarters, the power balance is falling apart. 3 of the 6 board members supporting the vice chairman are under threat, and the shift is massive. These board members are backed by veteran department heads with over 20 years of experience. But the tension is explosive. Chong Jin calls these veterans rotten geysers, mocking them as he watches the entire group begin to crumble from within. To exploit the chaos, he orders a dinner with the department heads. He logically concludes that after decades of service, these men have enough secrets to be used for a betrayal. But then, the plotting is cut short as the vice chairman enters. Even with the heavy title of acting chairman, the older man is ignored. Chong Jin doesn't even bother looking him in the eye. That's cold. Instead, he smugly tells the old man to just send an email, insulting him by asking if anyone on his team even knows how to write one. The vice chairman tries to step forward for a quick word, but he's blocked. The bodyguard Mundane blocks his path, citing strict orders that forbid any contact between the rival factions before the big board meeting. Since security has sided with Chong Jin, everyone is expected to obey. Mundane takes a threatening step toward the old man, warning him that she'll use force if he gets closer. But the vibe shifts instantly when the vice chairman glares back with a terrifying, stylized fury. This small giant releases such an imposing aura that the bodyguard actually starts shaking in pure terror. She is visibly sweating now. Chong Jin mocks her lack of composure and docks her pay for 3 months. As the vice chairman walks past, he leans in to reveal his real cards. He actually thanks Chong Jin for taking out the loyalists and his own father. After 37 years, he can finally claim the chairmanship for himself. Then, his face turns predatory. He mentions the 20 billion won bounty and reveals he's already found the ghost who crippled Chong Jin Jintaya. He tells the director that a mercenary is already on the move. Our hero will be in his hands soon. He gives a final ultimatum: resign or die before the ghost arrives. Meanwhile, at the pub, our protagonist is busy preparing for a different kind of fight. Because the apprentice, Hyunbin, cracked Taiha's knife earlier, so our hero needs a blade that can withstand anything. Hyunbin brags about his skills, but Guangsu yells at him to focus on slicing the fish properly. Taiha explains this is all because of Baek Junwoo, a man who literally crushed a blade with his bare hands. Guangsu notes that using his father's name as a proxy was a genius move. It's definitely causing a massive stir within the company right now. Our hero realizes the vice chairman is probably giving Chong Jin an earful at this very moment. The vice chairman's greed is legendary. Guangsu explains that if Taiha makes it to that board meeting, his presence alone proves the coup was illegal. That would strip Chong Jin of everything. Still, our protagonist's gloved hand reaches for his broken, shattered blade. He knows he has to face Baek Junwoo, the man who controls all security. When asked if he can win, Taiha says this isn't about victory. It is his duty to ensure every traitor who destroyed his family dies. Moved by this, Guangsu promises to forge a blade that will leave everyone speechless. As Taiha gets up to leave, he mentions he will find another place to stay until the weapon is ready. But the moment he steps outside, a bounty hunter in a blue cap is waiting. Before our hero can react, a massive guy in a red hoodie swings a metal bat with lethal force. The impact is insane, sending our boy flying through storefront signs before he crashes hard into a dumpster. Strangely, the duo from the association realize the hit wasn't as clean as it looked. Something is off. Batter notices that Taiha actually jumped to offset the impact. Back inside, Guangsu hears the noise and shouts for his master, but a blade suddenly stabs his neck from behind. In a chilling twist, the once clumsy apprentice Hyunbin grips Guangsu's face with a dark, terrifying expression. The act is over. He reveals his slow persona was just a cover for his life as a top assassin. His eye glows red as he explains he has people stationed for every possible outcome. He betrayed his master for one reason: to compete for the honor of becoming the next successor to the security throne. Now Guangsu is cornered by his own student. Caught off guard, the veteran warrior can't stop Hyunbin from stabbing him with a blade coated in deadly Bushmaster venom. The traitorous pupil smiles, explaining that the neurotoxin won't kill him yet. No, the pain will be so excruciating that he'll wish he were dead. This betrayal is linked to a much larger, darker corporate conspiracy. Over at headquarters, the manic Jin Chong confronts the vice chairman. Tensions are boiling over. He reveals the existence of a secret special ops unit, created specifically to find a worthy successor for the company. While the unit was supposedly purged, Jin Chong couldn't let such lethal talent go to waste. He believes the company must use its people since the country lacks natural resources. Now it's the final ultimatum. The vice chairman must either resign or find someone strong enough to survive a clash with the legendary Junwoo. The choice is his. Back at the pub, the truth finally comes out. That nameless apprentice? He is actually the former number 4 of the Special Ops Division. As Guangsugu's hand starts trembling from the neurotoxin, he asks if this assassin has been stalking him since he left the company. Hyunbin confirms it. He was stationed there indefinitely. His only way out? Finding the last of the loyalists. Guanggu swings a heavy punch, but Hyunbin just drifts away. He counters with a brutal slash right across his mentor's back. With the old man down, the assassin casually spins his knife. It is time. He is heading outside to collect our hero's head. Meanwhile, Taiha is already caught in a completely different fight. He is being harassed by a deadly bounty hunter duo, the pitcher and the batter. The pitcher hurls high-speed steel balls that detonate on the pavement, forcing our boy to weave through fire and debris. Meanwhile, the batter swings a metal club with enough force to create visible ripples in the air. Jinta manages to evade their strikes, but he realizes the truth. Fighting without a weapon is becoming a major disadvantage. The hunters tell him to come quietly. Dead or alive, it does not matter, they get their paycheck either way. That is when Taiha realizes these guys are not with Jin Chang. But then boom, Hyunbin lunges straight out of the shadows. The batter is furious at the intrusion, but his anger does not last long. Moving like lightning, Hyunbin slashes the pitcher and drops the batter, calling them nothing but roaches. Taiha recognizes those clothes immediately. Why was the pub apprentice undercover? Hyunbin mocks the dying old man, but he is actually grateful. Taiha's arrival is his ticket out of that miserable stakeout. He has endured this mission for one reason: a chance to kill Dion Han and take the seat of the man who betrayed him. Hyunbin leaps forward with a manic grin. But then, we shift back to the vice chairman's perspective. Guang Huyang laughs at the young director's arrogance. Imagine thinking you could hide an assassin right under Baek Junsu's nose. Junsu was likely just pretending not to notice. He did not even think this apprentice was worth a response. Back on the street, the tension hits its peak. As Hyunbin closes in, Taiha stays eerily calm. The time for empty-handed defense is over. He needs a weapon, now. Suddenly smash. Guangsugu lunges from nowhere, crashing into Hyunbin with pure desperation. Bloodied and poisoned, the veteran loyalist actually made it to the street. He stands before our hero, blade in hand, ready to fulfill his duty one last time. Hyun delivers a devastating blow, sending the old man hurtling through the air until he crashes into a nearby wall. With the old man critically wounded, Taiha grips the tactical blades and prepares for war. He looks at the fallen Guangsugu with a heavy heart, telling him to rest as he slips into unconsciousness. But unfortunately, our hero does not have a second to linger. Hyun leaps from a ledge, mocking Taiha for getting distracted mid-fight. He slams into the ground with violent force, forcing our boy into a defensive crouch. As the dust settles, Hyunbin keeps talking trash. He is amazed that a poisoned man could still crawl to his master's side. Taiha just brushes it off. Is the assassin jealous of the loyalty he never earned? Suddenly the air fills with sharp cracks. Before Taiha can even react, a utility pole comes crashing down. Hyunbin deliberately sabotaged the whole structure just for this. Severed power lines start whipping around with electric jolts. One by one, the neighborhood lights begin to flicker and die. Residents are screaming in the chaos as the assassin dashes forward. He mockingly asks if Taiha is good at tap dancing around those live wires. Their blades clash in a shower of sparks. Hyunbin tries to break Taiha's spirit by reminding him how badly he failed against Baek Junu. He asks where this confidence comes from. After all, Taiha could not even land a single hit on the top enforcer. Taiha leaps onto a roof to catch his breath, but Hyunbin is right there. He looks down from above, calling our boy pathetically weak. The fight spills into a narrow hallway. The intensity is insane, and the toll is finally starting to show. Catching his breath, Taiha realizes something is wrong. The assassin is strong, but his movements? Bizarre. It is like he is teleporting a step ahead of every move. But then he notices a contradiction. The positioning is blindingly fast, but the actual attacks? They are slow enough to counter. This triggers a flashback. We see Regina Cerno in her office, feet up on the desk, looking totally relaxed. She tells Taiha that assassins and killers are not the same. One is just a brawler, the other is a professional scientist. From poison to drones, the options are limitless. But the key for any real assassin? Leaving zero traces behind. Taiha jokes that it sounds like his messy work, so Regina kicks her desk. Stop painting the walls with blood. She warns that the government uses these jobs as traps to kill the target and the assassin. Then, she asks one final question. What happens to a group with an assassin who leaves no trace? Back in the present, Taiha realizes that kind of ghost is pure power. Finally, our boy cracks the pattern. Hyunbin is not actually teleporting. He is a magician, disappearing with a purpose. That utility pole? Not a coincidence. It was a plan to move this fight into the dark where an assassin thrives. Hyunbin confirms it. He would have rotted in that pub forever if Taiha had not shown up to save him from that fate. Our hero finally smiles. He knows why they kept this ghost undercover for years. But what happens next? You and I are looking at a guy who failed as an assassin just because he likes messy kills. That mockery makes the assassin's eyes pop with rage. He remembers being kicked across the floor, begging Junu Baek for another shot. Baek Jun-soo just looked down with cold disappointment. He had seen enough from the boy. He told Hyunbin he was distracted by impossible goals and would never be Doyeon-han. Now the assassin screams for Taiha to shut up. But Taiha hits back with one final truth: he is just an abandoned coward who ran away with his tail tucked. That is the breaking point. The assassin charges through the hall, desperate for the hero's head and some scrap of recognition. Hyunbin dives into an elevator to chase his target, but then the logic shifts. A gloved hand hits the button. He is trapped. Taiha stands in that red-lit elevator as the doors slide shut. He gave the kid plenty of chances. Our hero draws his twin blades. It is finally his turn. The doors seal them in protagonist versus Nameless in a steel cage. Nameless used flashy tricks to lure Taiha here, but what he did not know was that Taiha was reading every single move. The hero has seen every card. Now, you and I are going to watch him collect the price. Suddenly, the small space explodes with violence. But wait, Taiha is not acting sluggish anymore. The act is over. He blocks every strike with perfect focus. Nameless is sweating now, realizing he is completely outclassed by this speed. Taiha moves with ghostly efficiency. He is behind the assassin before the guy can even blink. It is pure, lethal skill. Our hero sees right through those teleportation tricks. To him, this kid is just an open book. The elevator hits the floor with a heavy boom. Then, Taiha unleashes a storm of lightning-fast strikes. He mocks the kid's desperation. There was only one exit, and Taiha was already standing there. Nameless is completely cornered. The fight spills out, and suddenly, the hero's knife snaps. Nameless laughs like a maniac. He made that flawed weapon himself years ago, but his victory does not last long. Taiha does not need tools to win. He suddenly grabs Nameless by the mouth to shut him up for good. With a massive surge of power, he slams the assassin through a glass window. They both plummet toward the street. They hit the pavement hard. Taiha lands on his feet like a pro while Nameless lies broken. Time for a cigar. He admits the kid has talent but points out a fatal flaw. Betrayal. The hero finds this treachery unforgivable. Now for some tactical irony. Since Nameless used a poisoned blade, the venom actually transferred back onto the assassin during the struggle. Luckily for this traitor, the old man's final request was for the boy's life to be spared. Out of respect for that loyalty, our protagonist decides to let him live just this once. He leaves the broken assassin behind. He warns him, next time luck runs out. Meanwhile, Jin Chong is celebrating victory. He sips a drink while Do Young-han agrees to cast the final vote for the chairman's seat. His phone vibrates. He arrogantly assumes it means Taiha is dead. He tosses the phone to Baek Junu, ordering him to dissolve the body. Make it a clean disposal. He wants Nameless gone too, But when Junwoo answers the call, it is not a mercenary on the line. It is our hero. Taiha is glad Junsu answered because Jin Chong is way too cowardly to stay on. Outside the building, Taiha gives him one final deadly choice. Come out and fight or wait for him to come inside. He is ready to end this whole conspiracy. Our boy does not waste time. He tells the security chief to get outside before he lets himself in. Junwoo stays calm. He asks if our hero is just stalling. He asks if the hero is afraid of failing like he did 17 years ago. This starts a reflection. At first, it was just about raw revenge for his family. But then, things got much more complicated. He wants to know the logic behind this double betrayal. Junsu is still just a security head after all this time. He explains it with a dark metaphor. He is like a beast that protects its young but would snap the neck of a weak or failing child. To him, the company is a legal entity that must be protected at any cost. He vowed to safeguard the company. Killing Taiha's parents? That was just a necessary sacrifice for the goal. Taiha's face turns to stone. There is nothing more to hear. He reaches for his tactical blades, but then he freezes. Junwoo is already out of the building, standing right behind him like a ghost. Suddenly, Junwoo starts throwing out complex hand signals. Our boy just stands there in total, genuine shock. He is trying to decode the signs, but there is zero time. Another monster, Dog Yonghan, appears at his back with a cold, deadly stare. Our hero drops low and leaps away to gain some breathing room. But Junwoo just relaxes. He says he is not here to trade blows yet. Nameless was never the person the board was truly waiting for. The board meeting is where the real blood will spill. Junwoo and Doyonghan just turn their backs and walk away. Our hero is left alone, knuckles white as he grips his blade. While the heat rises at headquarters, Jill Kim gets a report at a cigar lounge. The bounty hunters and those elite hitters, all decimated by the hero. With the association involved, Jill realizes what the vice chairman is actually planning. Since Junwoo flipped sides, Yang is calling in outside mercenaries. This is not just a family feud anymore. What they did not know, this is now a full-scale corporate war. Meanwhile, Vice Chairman Yang is busy with something much more lethal. In a secret lab, he watches an explosive blast a mannequin to absolute shreds. These ceramic explosives use piezoelectric tech. That means they can bypass every single metal detector. Yang has secretly rigged every rival's seat at the board table. He is not even worried that Jin Taiha is still missing. He believes only he can settle the score for all the years of pain he suffered. When the meeting day arrives, an eerie silence covers the city. Then pure chaos. Reporters swarm the building, but the garage is completely and utterly empty. Then they see it. The lobby is packed with Chiangu security. This changed everything. Something massive is about to go down. High above in his luxury office, Jin Chong just laughs. He thinks the leak was intentional to stop a coup, but the man is dangerously arrogant. His man mentions Taiha is still missing and Junwoo moved the guards to the first floor. But Chong just dismisses the danger entirely. He mocks the idea that our boy would ever have the nerve to walk through the front door under 1,000 cameras. Well, he is dead wrong. Moving with pure authority, our hero shows up in a sharp suit. He walks right through the wall of reporters. He is here to reclaim his legacy. He ignores the flashing cameras and heads for the entrance. Up on the 36th floor, the ornate double doors are finally about to open. The chairman's throne room. This is the seat of power, a prize everyone in this building would kill for. But right now, the silence of the hall is shattered by a ringing gong. Inside, a bizarre shamanic ritual is underway. A shaman in blood-red robes is performing a ritual dance, surrounded by drummers and half-naked men. Right in the middle of it, Vice Chairman Yang is dancing like a madman before an altar. He is shouting with an intensity that is pure theater. Out in the quiet hallway, the stoic Junwoo stands guard. He is the iron gatekeeper of the 36th floor. Jin Chong watches the whole scene with a smirk. He tells his confused subordinate that the old man is probably just celebrating his move to the top spot. But then, Chong reveals a much darker truth. People think his late father was the one who killed the loyalists. But the reality? It is way more gruesome. His father wanted him to watch his rival. So, Chong saw it all. It was actually the vice chairman who tortured those men to death. A memory flashes back. A dark torture room. A bloodied man tied up, screaming in absolute agony. The man begs for mercy, swearing he knows nothing about a loyalist party. But Yang looms over him with cold, steel cutting tools. Yang demands the family's secrets. He tells the man that his silence will be his death warrant. Back in the present, Chong wonders who will be the one to finally take our protagonist's head. Down at the entrance, the news crews are desperate to get a shot of the lobby. In the middle of the crowd, Taiha Jin gets bumped. He does not even flinch, he just keeps walking. The reporters have no clue who he is, thinking he is just some new hire. Inside, the guards watch him approach. One guard is totally stunned. The other cannot believe the hero is actually serious about walking into this lion's den. Taiha stays cool. He remembers a conversation he had at the bedside of the poisoned Guang Sugu. Since the company was a hopeless wreck, our hero asked the old man why he never fled the country after the massacre. Guangsu just smiled. He stayed because he had a rock-solid belief that someone would eventually come to finish what the chairman started. It was that impossible conviction that forced the company to keep a spy like Nameless around for years. Suddenly, a deafening order rings out. Everyone stands at attention as Team Black marches in, led by the lethal Captain Voy Kim. Today is the election. Voy Kim gives a lethal order: kill anyone who even looks like a threat. The guards know exactly who Voy is. He is an elite captain with way more combat experience than these office grunts. Since Yang recruited them, the lobby is now a tiger's den. 400 of their best are ready to pounce. One guard realizes that even if they serve different masters, their goal is the same: protect the company at all costs. He watches our hero keep walking, knowing he is stepping right into a trap. As the shutters come down, a pistol slide snaps into place. Our hero freezes the scene. No weapons, just a voice that commands the entire army. He roars his name: the grandson of Seoko Jin, the son of Suyok Jin. Absolute power. The room goes silent. Vice Chairman Yang looks like he just saw a ghost. He escaped the ambush 17 years ago, but now, he is home to honor his grandfather. He raises the black fountain pen. The ultimate proof. Huang Junyuk freezes. Those heavy footsteps, they are heading straight for our hero. We see the vice chairman struggle. Years of regret and duty finally colliding. He prayed for judgment for his sins, but then, a shocker. This former executioner drops to his knees, the first to bow to the true heir. Every guard follows, a sea of black suits kneeling to their new young master. The cameras are flashing as the vice chairman presses his head to the floor, sobbing about his failure to the company. Jin Chong is laughing like a maniac, but our hero, stone cold. He stares at the kneeling army and simply commands them to move. The board meeting is waiting for the rightful heir. Is it really him, the ghost of 17 years ago? The staff can't believe their eyes. He marches forward, his silver cross necklace gleaming as he passes the crowd. Young Min is sweating bullets. His brain is breaking trying to process this logic. The man who killed loyalists is now the most loyal of all? It makes zero sense. Hong Jun-Huk grabs his gun. He knows a war is coming right now. Why aren't they attacking? Even with the betrayal, his forces still outnumber Team Black 3-1. Our hero has them backed into a corner. He grips his pistol. If he doesn't kill this problem now, his whole career is over. One more failure and he's dead meat. He has to act or lose everything tonight. But then Hin Young walks in with a smile. What's with all the drama, guys? The vice chairman doesn't flinch. This kid is my key witness for the board meeting. He saw the yacht massacre 17 years ago. He saw the recent murders too. His words matter. Any move against him now looks like a corporate coup. Heron Yan loves the chaos. She decides to lead our hero inside. She's here for business. She even gives him a mocking young master as they walk. Inside the elevator, things get real. Was your hunger for power just a big act? Did you wait decades for this, or were you just biding your time? He didn't even know the boy lived until that bounty photo went public. The long wait is over. He asks Heron if her old school is still standing. Seeing the past fade away like that, it is bittersweet. 30 years. He gave this company 30 years. If this place dies, his life dies. He endured it all to stop the madness. The doors open. The 81st Directorate meeting is officially in session. She seats our hero directly across from his rival Chang Jin. Game on. But then Taichu slams the table. Why is a wanted fugitive in our boardroom? This is an absolute outrage. Yang tries to speak, but he's cut off. Murders are for the police. He mocks the old man's age, suggesting he's just desperate for power. The room erupts in laughter. Our hero doesn't move. He just starts naming names. He names the mercenaries. Yuri, Vladimir, Liam. Every killer from the firm Watercall is listed. 17 years ago. A sinking ship. Blood everywhere. He remembers it all. 8 men hit that yacht. 7 are already dealt with. But the last one, he is sitting at this table. Taichu is sweating. Show us proof. Proof? That is not how I work. You're losing, and you don't even know it yet. Taichu is cornered with nowhere left to run. After silencing the room with a brutal dose of reality, our hero locks eyes with the terrified director and prepares to drop the hammer. Guang Sugu has a debt of blood to settle. He preps for his mission at the pub, snapping a tactical knife into its sheath and holstering a heavy handgun. He hides the steel under his suit jacket, but right before he can leave, a blue van screeches to a halt. Suri, Yoon and Gray pull up, noting that he looks ready to head straight for the chaos waiting in Cheonggu. Guangsu is stunned to see the very people who patched him up. He warns them immediately this is not a game, it is a life or death war. Suri just tips her cap and cuts him off. They know the danger. They have dealt with our hero's reckless moves plenty of times before. Back in the boardroom, the atmosphere turns clinical. Jin Taiha begins tearing apart the details of the country's revised inheritance and gift tax laws. He explains that Article 1 of this act, which helps blood relatives avoid taxes on stocks to grow national wealth, was conveniently passed just 2 months before the yacht ambush. Thanks to this perfect timing, Jin Chong inherited a massive 28.5% stake in Cheonggu without paying a single dime in taxes. Teo tries to brush this off as a standard legal perk, but Vice Chairman Guang Hu-young shuts him down instantly. The Vice Chairman slams the table. He reminds Taichu that the committee purged every loyalist and handed over the chair just 1 week after the funeral. It was a coup, and Taichu only has a seat because his seniors were fired. Now, our hero dares the board to look at this string of suspicious events and call them mere coincidences. He reveals the broker who smuggled him back was Changgu affiliated. The unguarded Insub Kim was an easy first target, and the Jin family just happened to meet at the exact villa from his childhood. He notes that Jin Chong was the sole survivor of that bloodbath. Then he asks the room what were the odds of that encounter with him of the Osang faction. The board is paralyzed at the mention of Osang, so Taiha steps in to provide the missing logic. Flashbacks show Jin Chong hired him in to find the killer just to avoid using Changgu's security. Our hero explains this was a genius move to gain leverage by dragging a council member like Osang into the mess. Jin Chong was simply buying future support for his own chairmanship. Heron Yan realizes this was a solo power play. Jin Chong wanted that council seat all for himself. This revelation sends Vice Chairman Yang bolting to his feet. He screams for a point of order. He wants to stop the meeting and form a committee to investigate the yacht tragedy and these recent murders. He demands they summon him in for questioning since the board's legitimacy is trash right now. When asked to respond, Jin Chong just sits there in a silent, sweating rage, wiping his forehead with a striped cloth. But then Jin Chong flips the script with a dramatic emotional performance. He looks up with a face full of pain. He accuses the vice chairman of ignoring the truth just to satisfy his own greed for power. He clutches his chest, trembling as he grips his ornate cane. He screams, "Who spilled our allies' blood? Who tore through my own Achilles' heel?" He bellows at the board, demanding to know why his sacrifices mean absolutely nothing to them. Our hero watches this theater, realizing Jin Chong is a far more dangerous monster than anyone in this room understands. A sinister red aura starts rising from his hand as he grips that cane. With a demonic grin, Jin Chong makes a move that absolutely no one saw coming. He declares that since he is accused of killing for money, he will give it all back. Every share, even his grandfather's portion, goes straight to the state. This insane act of corporate sabotage leaves Vice Chairman Young frozen in a state of absolute, pure terror. He frames it as a grand gift to the National Pension Fund. But the logic is sinister. This donation prevents his shares from crashing due to a massive, sudden supply shock. It lets Jin Chong play the martyr while effectively weaponizing his grandfather's entire legacy. Vice Chairman Yang watches with grim suspicion. He realizes that by threatening to give the shares away, Jin Chong is testing the loyalists' resolve. Yang wonders if Jin Chong has backing from the powerful Eternal Life sect to keep his grip on power without those shares. Meanwhile, Jin Taiha stays cold and totally unimpressed. He tells Jin Chong to do whatever he wants with the money. But he demands the board immediately reopen the investigations into the recent villa massacre and that yacht incident from 17 years ago. This demand triggers a massive outburst from director Jae Soo-chan, who slams his fists down. He argues they must prove Jin Chong is even eligible to inherit before talking about shares. Things get visceral when director Chang calls Jin Chong a monster to his face. And then, he reveals a horrifying secret. Pretending to hunt for the villa killer, Jin Chong lured his own uncle's families to a restaurant and executed every single one of them. A janitor saw the slaughter from a storage room, giving the board a lead on the truth. But Jin Chong? He remains eerily, terrifyingly calm. He mocks the lack of evidence and insults the janitor's credibility. He uses a smooth, reasonable tone to hide his savage, predatory instincts. Watching this, our hero feels a deep chill. He knows Jin Chong is lying, but the man's charisma is so suffocating that Taiha feels like he is being coiled by a giant serpent. Realizing Jin Chong is stalling for time, our hero urgently requests that the meeting be adjourned immediately. But the pushback from Jin Chong's loyalists is instant. To keep his momentum, Jin Chong proposes a cunning compromise. He suggests the election proceed now. Even if he wins, he will wait 1 month for the investigations to finish before taking the throne. Vice Chairman Young is skeptical. He knows a real investigation would take at least 6 months. But Jin Chong pressures him hard. He accuses the vice chairman of wanting to keep his acting title forever just to sway the final results. Under the guidance of chairperson Zhang Han Li, the board finally starts the vote. The vice chairman calculates the odds. He believes it will be a tie because director Ingu is absent. Just when you thought the plan was solid, everything collapses in a moment of absolute betrayal. As the count hits 7 for Jin Chong, director Pyodo Jang slowly raises his hand. Shock paralyzes the room as the trembling loyalist switches sides to join the enemy. What they didn't know was that the earlier talk about not being a monster was actually a secret code meant only for Pyodo. Horror washes over the vice chairman as his eyes dart toward the boardroom chairs. He had ordered Pyodo to rig the chairs with ceramic explosives as a last resort. Now, that plan is about to backfire in the worst way. Since Pyodo switched sides, the trigger is in the wrong hands. Consumed by fear, he presses the button and there is no going back now. Our main character lunges to save the old man, screaming for everyone to get down, but it is too late. a massive explosion rips through the room, painting the windows red. As the loyalists are wiped out in their seats, Jin Chong sits perfectly still. His expensive suit is splattered with the blood of his fallen rivals. Amidst the smoke and the screams of the dying, the chairperson, who was a traitor all along, calmly continues the meeting like nothing even happened. He slams the gavel twice, officially making Jin Chong the new chairman. The man just casually wipes blood off his face with a simple handkerchief. He stares at the mangled bodies and mocks the roaches who thought they could ever hide from his reach. Our hero, covered in blood and shielding the unconscious vice chairman, glares at the new chairman with eyes burning with absolute murderous rage. Drenched in blood, our main character demands to know how anyone could be insane enough to do this. But Jin Chong is just chilling, looking almost happy. He just shrugs it off, blaming the traitor Pyoto, suggesting the man simply had his own personal reasons for the little fireworks show. Feeling completely untouchable, he mocks the fools who dared to poke a sleeping bear. But that arrogance triggers an immediate, violent reaction from Heron Yan. The director, shaking with fury after being caught in the blast, launches a sudden attack, but unfortunately, her strike never even reaches its target. The elite enforcer, Doyoung Han, steps in with cold efficiency, catching her arm midair. While she snarls at the dog to let her go, Jin Chong doesn't flinch. He snakes his way out of it, reminding her that he didn't push the button, so maybe she should point that anger somewhere else. Seeing his opening, our hero leaps over a desk, flying through the air with a tactical blade ready to strike. Jin Chong just looks up, completely unbothered, while Doyoung Han delivers a devastating mid-air kick that sends our hero reeling. Heron Yan, pushed back by the shockwave, sheds her heavy coat to finally get serious. She makes it clear that she isn't calling for backup from the Yeon household. She is going to finish Jin Chong herself, right here and now. Our main character stands tall, face to face with the new chairman, swearing that this ends today. But then, a pained groan from behind breaks his focus. Somehow, Vice Chairman Yang survived the blast. While the old man struggles to his feet, Jin Chong is already moving on to the next phase of his plan. He makes a call, ordering a building-wide alert that our hero and the loyalists are the ones who just carried out a suicide bombing. Thanks to that lie, the lobby turns into a total kill zone. Mun Young-mian hears the announcement and realizes the civil war has officially started. A loyalist guard is shot through the head instantly, painting the lobby glass in a spray of blood. Hwang Jun-hook, casually blowing a bubble of gum, draws his gun and accepts the truth. This is open war. Back inside, our hero realizes his options are disappearing fast. This changed everything. If he doesn't kill Jin Chong right now, he might never get another shot at the throne. The voices of the past haunt him. His grandfather's final wish and the faces of the loyalists who put their hope in him flash before his eyes. Just as Taiha prepares to lunge, Vice Chairman Yang grabs his arm. Seeing they are surrounded, our boy suggests they get out of there while they still can. Finding strength in our hero's resolve, the Vice Chairman confirms he can move on his own. It is time to go. Our hero turns back one last time, promising that luck won't save him again. Jin Chong just smiles, suggesting he won't even live long enough to see him next time. They head into a dark corridor, but when Taiha suggests the stairs to avoid the guarded elevators, the old man stops him cold. Strangely, he insists the elevators are safe. Turns out he anticipated the treachery and had already ordered a secret security sweep of the route before they even arrived. The elevator chime rings, and as the doors slide open, our hero is met with a scene of absolute bloody carnage. The inside is piled high with the bleeding bodies of enemy security guards. Standing over the pile is Vu Kim, the captain of Team Black, calmly cleaning his blade. Because the young master has officially returned to claim his throne, Vu Kim offers a deep, loyal smile. He reminds Taiha that he isn't alone anymore, apologizing for the delay before beginning their escape. Outside, the entire headquarters has been put into a massive public lockdown. Police officers have cordoned off the entire area, using batons to force the media away from the sealed-off main entrance. While journalists complain that the security is overkill, their skepticism vanishes when heavy gunfire echoes from right behind those metal shutters. Inside the lobby, the building has turned into an absolute war zone. A massive brawl is underway as rival security factions descend into a chaos of brutal close-quarters combat. The enemy tries to maintain the advantage by ordering his forces to spread out, using handguns to keep the opposition from getting too close. But Team Black isn't backing down. Group 2 leader Azra is forced to dive behind a desk as bullets shred everything around him. He realizes through gritted teeth that the enemy has officially lost their minds, starting an all-out war right in the heart of their own headquarters. But even with their clinical precision, the real fight is just beginning. A bullet shreds his ear, but he doesn't flinch. Instead, he holds his mangled head and becomes a human shield, clearing a path while blood sprays everywhere. This gives Azra the opening he needs. The lobby turns into a slaughterhouse as a guard takes a headshot, ending the fight instantly. Team Black doesn't just fight, they dominate. They use raw, brute force to shove the guards back, clearing the corridors like a tidal wave. But then, the legend himself enters. Eri Kang, the scarred leader of Team Black, lunges into the chaos, his tactical knife carving through multiple enemies at once. This changes everything as he locks blades in a direct, metal-on-metal clash with the formidable Young Min Moon. Young Min mocks Eri for crawling back to Korea after being exiled, but Eri just smiles. He notes it's been a while, then points out that Young Min should have ditched the glasses since he finally went and lost an eye. While the lobby burns, an intercom broadcast screams terrorist attack. Employees are panicking, scrambling for safe rooms as the building descends into pure madness. In a dark office piled with dead guards, Jin Tae stands tall with Captain Vu Kim and the vice chairman. The vice chairman realizes the truth since most staff are working from home. These broadcasts are just a desperate trap to lure the survivors out of hiding. Tae-ha notices something off. For such a massive coup, the security on the upper floors feels way too thin. Yang explains why most of Chiang's forces are downstairs, busy managing the media circus and the chaos on the ground floor. Captain Vu Kim confirms they've made it. By taking the private executive elevator, they've successfully reached the 11th floor lobby. He scans the blueprints. The mission is clear. They need to use the emergency stairwells on both sides to make their descent. Moving between stairs will keep the enemy guessing. Tae-ha knows the stakes under normal circumstances. Stepping into an elevator would have been a straight death sentence. As they descend the creaking stairs, the vice chairman finally clears his head. He starts to see the terrifying logic behind Chiang's strategy. He realizes that even without the bomb, Chiang had already won the chairmanship. He had the 8 votes he needed all along. But that wasn't enough. Chiang ruthlessly provoked Pyoto, a family man, into detonating the bomb by threatening everything he loved. Chiang can't let any loyalists survive. If the villa massacre or the yacht incident are reinvestigated, he loses every single thing he's killed for. Captain Vu Kim knows their survival is a direct threat to Chiang's power. They don't just need to run, they have to escape. But while the others retreat, our hero moves through the shadows. He's wondering if running is really the best way to strike the new chairman. Meanwhile, Jin Chong heads to the office with Mundane. Chong is fuming. He's annoyed the elevators weren't shut down fast enough to trap the rats inside. Mundane admits she stayed away because she knew she'd lose. Chong finds her honesty hilarious, since he can't even cut her pay anymore anyway. The new chairman finally meets the legendary Baek Junu. Chang demands the keys to the 36th floor, gloating that he's finally delivered on every single promise he made. Baek Junu drops the keys into Chang's hand with a cold warning, do not disappoint this company. Mundane watches in silence. Chang clenches the keys, desperate to see his new kingdom. When Junsu suggests a helicopter evacuation, Chang just smirks with pure arrogance. He is the chairman now. He won't run from his own building like a coward again. Instead, he issues his first official command. He wants Baek Junu to slaughter Tae-ha and every loyalist. He wants their heads delivered by the end of the day. Down in the lobby, the civil war is reaching its breaking point. Security forces are locked in a brutal, bloody melee. The red-haired Azra knows their enemies are just corporate gym brats, not soldiers. He orders his men to close the distance and show them real war. He knows these sheltered guards can't handle close-quarters combat. This isn't a drill, it's time for them to face the harsh reality of a fight. Amidst the screams and the sound of bodies sliding across the floor, Eri Kang appears with a manic, terrifying grin. The Team Black leader moves with lethal fluidity, his golden tactical knife a blur. His former student, Young Min Moon, can barely keep up. Eri mocks him, asking if his training stopped the moment he joined the elite Giant family. Young Men can only grit his teeth in pure frustration. He realizes the truth while he was safe at headquarters. These abandoned dogs were getting real-world experience, struggling to survive in the wild overseas. As blades clash, Young Men hits a wall, both physical and mental. He remembers a past failure where Baek Junu had calmly stripped him of his rank. Back then, Young Men claimed no one was a threat, but Junu saw right through him. He identified a massive gap in the young man's spirit. Because young men lacked the confidence to face our protagonist again, Junu realized he had sheltered his student too much. Now, the lobby fight is interrupted by the deafening roar of machine guns, shredding everything in sight. A bald monster named Pyong Won-ho the Mad Tiger drops in, wielding 2 heavy light machine guns. As a reckless combat instructor, he fires indiscriminately. He's hitting his own men just as often as the enemy, and he clearly doesn't care. Even the veteran Azra is shocked. He wonders if the leadership has finally gone senile because Pyong Won-ho is only interested in pure, unadulterated carnage. Meanwhile, floors above, our hero continues his silent descent. He drops a tactical guard with 1 clean strike to the neck. He realizes that packing the first floor with heavy weapons is a deliberate trap. Yang explains the nightmare these forces are part of Young Mudai, a secret private military project the Mad Tiger kept running in the shadows. As they rush to back up their allies, Tae-ha gets a frantic call from Gray. This information is about to change everything. Alright, you and I are jumping right into the chaos. The trap is sprung, and Azra slams the keypad as heavy security blinds start to lift. Guards scramble in total confusion while Pyong Won-ho mocks Azra for quitting. He thinks he is in control, but he is dead wrong. Azra just smiles. He knows the cavalry is here. Boom! A blue van driven by Unsuri smashes through the entrance with earth-shattering force. That impact sends the Mad Tiger flying into the stairs, clearing a path for a very special guest. Enter Guanggu. The legendary loyalist is back after 17 years, looking at this crumbling headquarters with a grim face. This hellhole hasn't changed a bit. Azra grins at the vehicle, asking if they timed that crash just for the drama. Guanggu, stepping back into the very company that kicked him out years ago, dismisses the idea of a planned entrance, noting that no one would time a return to such a mess. As the smoke clears, the rival guards panic. While the younger men wonder if this is a new enemy, the veteran admits he hasn't seen that face in years. Suddenly, a machine gun sprays the lobby. Guards dive for cover as Wonho snarls at his old senior. The tension here is absolutely electric. Wonho stands tall with a heavy weapon, mocking Guanggu for being the loser who backed the wrong side and got fired. But Guanggu is cold as ice. He says he didn't get fired, he resigned. And just like that, the guards are trembling. They realize Guanggu is the legend who built the entire security system alongside Baek Junu. While the stalemate holds, Yoon Suri and Gray exit the van, shocked by the ruins. Azra is confused by these kids, but Guanggu tells him to relax. These two are the real deal. Gray is a master data broker, and Unsuri? She was trained to lead the powerful Yan family. Talk about a power duo. They sprint for the elevators to hit the control room, but Wonho isn't having it. He orders his men to kill them. As the guards aim, Guanggu lunges. He grabs a man's arm and forces the barrel straight into the floor. He begins a brutal lecture on combat, delivering powerful strikes while critiquing the guards' poor grip and failure to manage recoil. He slams and kicks the men away. He is disgusted by how low the standards have fallen. But now, the heavy hitters of Team Black are moving in. Wonho prepares to fire, but Guanggu isn't waiting around. He lunges straight for the Mad Tiger. Now watch this. Wonho is so ruthless he yanks his own man forward to use as a human shield. Efficiency over lives, always. He fires a bullet directly through his own pleading subordinate to hit Guanggu, then slashes outward with a knife. He just laughs, stating it is right to remove useless weights. As they trade heavy blows, we flash back to 2 days ago. Guanggu and Azra were scouting the biggest threats on the board. Azra warned him about Wonho, telling a horror story from the Middle East where he murdered 16 hostages and the terrorists for ransom. Yet, Baek Junu personally recruited this monster, claiming the company needed absolute power, no matter the moral cost. Back in the present, the intensity of the duel causes Guanggu's knife to shatter. The Mad Tiger laughs at the broken blade, but Guanggu remains unbowed against the wall. He says he wanted to avoid a bloodbath today, but Wonho's lack of humanity? That changed everything. A red aura of pure fury explodes from Guanggu. He stands up and declares that the Mad Tiger must die tonight. To understand the monster terrorizing the lobby, look back at a blood-soaked scandal where militants seized 16 missionaries and demanded a staggering $50 million for their release. The government refused to pay, so the terrorists started executing a hostage every hour just to prove they were serious. Negotiators tried to lower the price, desperately trying to find a middle ground. But the militants didn't care. They killed another hostage mid-sentence just to show they weren't bluffing. While the officials panicked over the budget, Wonho, then part of Team Red, was disgusted by the cowardice he saw. He saw the terrorists as trash and the negotiators as fools. So he abandoned diplomacy and chose violence instead. He opened fire, slaughtering everyone. Hostages, terrorists, negotiators, nobody left that room alive. The media reported a deadly shootout with only one survivor, but what they didn't mention was the $20 million that vanished from the scene. 6 months later, Wonho was living the high life in a luxury villa, thinking he got away with it all. But then, Azra and Junu tracked him down. Wonho was arrogant, thinking no suit could handle a trained killer like him. That's when Junu stepped in personally. In a flash, he overpowered Wonho and pinned him by the throat. Surprisingly, he wasn't there for the money. He knew if Wonho really wanted the cash, he would have taken it sooner. Wonho just grinned, saying he killed them because he hated clowns who thought money solved everything. He was saving the country. Junu loved that lethal conviction. He recruited the Mad Tiger right then and there for his own private army. Back in the present, Vice Chairman Yang reveals a secret that changes everything. Junu's legendary loyalty? It wasn't always as solid as we thought. 18 years ago, before the yacht incident shattered this family, Chairman Seoko Jin had deep doubts about joining the council. But his eldest son Guo was pushing hard for the alliance. While the chairman traveled abroad to find a way out, Guo was busy plotting a secret betrayal. He often confided in the vice chairman, admitting his fears that the council was rotting from the inside with corruption. That absence was a fatal mistake. It allowed Guo to build a secret bond with the security forces. A year later, the yacht incident happened, and it was no coincidence that Jun Su, the chairman's shadow, was mysteriously nowhere to be found. Our hero realizes Jun Su believed that only absolute power should lead, a philosophy that made him the perfect tool for Guo's dark ambitions. Now Captain Vi Kim is shedding even more light on Jun Su's twisted nature. He explains that Xianggu Security once ran a special ops division. It was a brutal slaughterhouse where soldiers fought to the death just to prove they were worthy of Jun Su. Junsu acted like a devoted mentor to win their hearts, but in reality he saw his men as nothing more than disposable stock. To him, the firm was just a ranch to breed the ultimate warrior. When leaders like Voy were no longer useful, they were simply discarded overseas. They know the heartless logic behind Junsu's mask because they are the ones who barely survived it. They understand a terrifying truth. The chairmanship of Xianggu only exists because Junsu allows it to stand. He is the beast that defines the company. He is a predator that will mercilessly snap the neck of any leader or offspring that fails to grow or falls sick. As the group moves through the stairwell, our protagonist suddenly stops. He asks Vu Kim to buy him some time, and the vice chairman immediately begins to panic. Guanghu Yong begs the boy to hide. He fears that facing a monster like Junsu right now will only lead to certain death. But then, our hero refuses to run. He reflects on the legacy of his grandfather, his parents, and his godfather, Regina Salerno. None of them ever taught him to abandon his family or his convictions. He decides that if Junsu is the force defining this empire, then Junsu is the one who has to die today. With a deadly focus, our protagonist prepares to strike at the heart of the empire. He is done playing the role of the hunted. A flashback from 17 years ago shows young Jin Taiha returning from school, calling for his mother while covered in fresh, painful bruises. His mother is terrified. She asks if he is being bullied again and begs him to transfer schools immediately before his father sees the state he is in. However, the boy is remarkably stoic despite the massive bruise on his face. His mother is left bewildered, wondering why he puts up with such persistent violence. Back in the present, he stands in the dark stairwell. He shocks the vice chairman by declaring his intent to go back up and kill Junsu. Most of the security forces, since the vice president and the guards are busy on the first floor, Taiha realizes this is a rare window of opportunity. He asks Voy and the vice chairman to buy him 10 minutes, promising to return once the job is finished. Voy is skeptical, knowing the danger is just around the corner, but our protagonist remains firm. He begins his climb back up the stairs. Suddenly Voy stops him. He leans in close in the dark hallway, ready to share a deeply personal revelation. He reveals that they only became loyalists because they believed it was the only way to get close enough to eventually kill Junsu. Voy explains that those discarded from the Ops division joined Team Black just to stay alive. While they did the company's dirty work overseas, their family members were systematically murdered in accidental deaths to keep secrets hidden. Xianggu's darkness went much deeper than anyone knew. Their desire to see Junsu dead is just as strong as his own. Vi desperately tries to stop the hero, grabbing his collar and shouting that Junsu nearly killed him back at the villa. Taiha remains calm, explaining he was only defeated before because he was caught off guard while chasing a target. He places his hands on Voy's arms, asking for just one simple gesture of trust. He promises that if Voy can buy him those 10 minutes, he will ensure Junsu is taken out for good. This sincerity finally forces Voy to let go. Luckily, Vice Chairman Yang intervenes, encouraging the young master to go and promising they will be right here waiting for his return. As our hero dashes back up the stairs, Voy questions if the vice chairman has lost his mind. Yang admits his memory is hazy, and he forgot what kind of person Taiha was as a child. Meanwhile, on the 11th floor, Junsu is effortlessly slamming guards into the ground like they are nothing. He mocks them for calling themselves loyalists when they never even met the founder. A captain named Ledger stands up, crossing his twin gold blades with a smile. He knows that risking their lives to keep Junsu busy is the only way to protect the people on the first floor. As the fight rages, the vice chairman continues. Taiha's parents insisted he attend a normal school to be raised like a commoner. When a bully started targeting him, our boy didn't hide. Instead, he drew a circle in the sand on the playground every single day. He called the bully out for a fair one-on-one fight in the open. But the bully was a coward. He refused to enter the circle and chose to beat Taiha in private instead. During those beatings, Taiha never fought back. He simply accepted the violence. The flashback returns to the kitchen where the young boy explains his logic. He tells his mother the bully cursed his family and friends, saying things he could never repeat. He insists he can handle the pain as long as she believes in him. In the present day, Taiha arrives in the boardroom surrounded by fallen enemies. He still carries that same intense resolve. He walks toward Junsu with his blade in hand. He swears that as long as his allies believe in him, he will always win. The hall falls into a lethal silence. Junsu stands there, perfectly calm and composed. Opposite him, our protagonist stands ready, holding a tactical blade with a look of pure focus. This sudden appearance sends the guards into a state of total panic. Their original plan was to keep Junsu away from the young master. Ledger frantically demands to know why he is here. As the pressure in the room spikes to a terrifying level, Ledger begins to tremble. He screams for the hero to leave before things turn fatal. Screw the warnings! Our hero lunges in with a massive slam, but Junu blocks that knife strike with his bare palm. That shockwave? It is proof of the insane power clashing here. Junu leans into the struggle with a smirk. Turns out, he has been waiting for this exact moment. Ledger is frozen in the background. He can't even process how a human can move with that kind of speed. Taha unleashes a flurry of strikes to keep the enforcer busy, then tells Ledger to get to the first floor. He is taking this burden on himself, declaring he is the only one who can handle this man. Ledger flees, but he looks back one last time. He still can't believe what he is seeing. They tear through the hall, but Jun-soo just turns his back, mockingly asking if our boy actually had a plan. Suddenly Jun-soo grabs the hero's face and slams him down. He mocks Taiha's efforts, saying this strategy is nothing special compared to what he expected from him. Taiha struggles, one eye peering through Junu's fingers before he delivers a violent shove to push the monster back. Bloodied and bruised, our hero remembers the warnings. Jun-soo is a legend born from an era of pure chaos and bloodshed. His name alone terrifies the council. He is the only man to ever face the head of the Ong faction and survive. Flashback to the bar. Our protagonist told Gwang-soo that every human has a weakness. Everyone can be defeated. Gwang-gu just laughed, loving that spirit. He noted that people only think Junu is invincible out of fear. Then he brought up the villa incident where Junu shattered the hero's blade. The logic? You have to hit the blade's precise angle with monstrous brute strength to make it snap like that. But here's the kicker: Gwang-gu revealed that this impossible technique was actually his own creation. Back in the present, Taha slashes, but Junu catches the blade with 2 fingers. Our hero finally realizes Jun-soo's secret: he copies every move he sees, only using techniques he already knows. Jun-soo snaps the metal again, standing among the shards with those eerie, soulless eyes. He moves in a blur, launching a spin kick that forces our boy to duck. Jun-soo looks back, asking if a cheap replacement blade was really his best shot. This triggers a memory. A young, bruised Taiha sitting alone on a swing set. A younger Jun-soo offered to handle a bully for him, but the boy refused. Instead, young Taha just wanted Jun-soo to visit his school at noon to tell his mother he won. Now, that same fire is back. Taha lunges forward, refusing to let the same trick take him down twice. The impact creates a literal burst of energy. For the first time, Jun-soo's arrogant expression finally falters. As blood sprays from Jun-soo's arms, he realizes he forgot who this kid really is. Taiha's moves look reckless, but they are driven by cold calculation and unwavering conviction. Look at those eyes. Our protagonist stands tall, clutching 2 bloodied knives with murderous intent. He declares it officially: since Jun-soo became the enemy of his entire family, he is finally here for vengeance. A childhood flashback reveals that his ruthlessness was forged in fire. Even as a kid, young Taiha was targeted by bullies who never let up. But they couldn't break him, so they started shaming his family with hateful graffiti. Our boy didn't just take the abuse though. He drew a circle in the sand, baiting them into a fight. A bully 3 years older saw it as an insult and charged in, planning to end it with one punch. Bad move. Our protagonist had already prepared the entire battlefield. Taiha hit a wooden plank under the sand. As the bully lunged, a quick kick flipped the wood and sent him slipping. With the bully falling, Taha launched his attack, driving a knee straight into the guy's nose. That move brought him right to his knees. But he didn't stop there. He pulled a rock from his pocket and began relentlessly pummeling the fallen bully. He did it to make sure they would never insult his family again. He was done being a victim. And watching nearby, a young Baek Junu saw everything. He later told Taiha's parents that the boy had defended himself remarkably well. Back in the present, Taiha keeps up the high-speed assault, sliding across the floor with blades drawn. He launches a slash that Jun-soo barely avoids, and that blade slices deep into a marble pillar. Jun-soo looks at the cut. Inside, he is actually stunned. That blade cuts through stone like it is paper. It stays sharp despite the wear. He respects the kid's skills, but the knife itself, that is truly remarkable. The enforcer counters fast, grabbing Taha's arm and violently twisting his wrist toward the hard floor. Since the hero aimed too low, Jun-soo finds an opening to force a retreat. He mocks Taiha, remembering how the boy used to plan for days just to take down a playground bully. He asks if 17 years of planning and the mafia life really just resulted in this one-blade strategy. The pressure from Junu becomes clinical. He unleashes a barrage of heavy strikes before grabbing our hero by the chest. Junu mocks him, asking if he really thought his training overseas would be enough to beat someone like him, especially in a country where bloodshed is a daily occurrence. This assault ends with Taiha being sent flying into the wall with a massive impact. Strangely, as Junu stands there, blood suddenly splatters across his own chest. He is stunned. When did the hero even manage to land a hit? As our hero lies bloodied on the floor, he remembers Regina Cerno's words. She said some people are just God's favorites. They are born with talent that makes everyone else feel like mere mortals. But can we actually beat monsters like that? Stick around, because things are about to get wild. Have you ever wondered what it takes to be the best? The Cerno family underboss knows it's all about who's teaching you. Years ago, under a cold moon, a young Jintaeha was struggling just to stand. His training? Absolute torture. Regina Cerno loomed over him, a red toy hammer on her shoulder, mocking him while he gasped for air. Our main character was at his breaking point, doubting his own talent and wondering if he'd ever actually reach that top-tier league. Regina just smirked at his insecurity, then bam, she slammed that toy hammer into his ribs with enough force to send him flying into a tree. When he gasped, asking if that toy was made of steel, she told him the hard truth: if you only learn to take hits, you will never win. Later that night by the waterfall, Regina got serious. This wasn't just about pain, there was a method to the madness. She broke it down. Muscles are red for endurance, or white for explosive power, and our boy, he was built different. With those long legs and insane fast twitch fibers, she knew speed would be his greatest weapon in a fight. He chose knives to match that speed, but one shadow still haunted him: the legend of the bodyguard, Baek Junu. This guy was an undefeated monster, a mountain Taiha felt he couldn't climb. But Regina wasn't having it. She suddenly lunged at him with a real blade. Facing actual death, his instincts finally kicked in. He dodged a strike he never could have avoided when it was just a toy hammer. That was Regina's secret logic. Taiha is the type of warrior who only truly evolves when his life is on the line. She remembered him stabbing his own hand just to prove his grit. He only really moves when death is knocking. The only way forward? Every fight is kill or be killed. Now, adult Taiha stands on a bloody floor, reliving those lessons against Baek Jun-soo. Downstairs in the lobby, things have turned into a total brutal bloodbath. The mad tiger Pyong Wonho is going ballistic on Guangsu, screaming for the old man to just lay down and die. But Guangsu is a rock. He catches the tiger with a massive right hook and follows up with a heavy combo. But the tiger's stamina is insane. He fires back with a punch that sends Guangsu sliding. Ozra, our red-haired ally, rushes in to back him up. Guangsu knows he's past his prime, but he can see this guy is all brute force and no skill. Desperate, the tiger calls for backup. But get this, his men are trapped. Why? Because Yunsuri and Gray have successfully hijacked the control room. They hacked the system and slammed down heavy containment barriers, cutting off the armed forces coming from the 8th floor. Guangsu hears the news on his radio, but his relief doesn't last long. Gray reports that our protagonist is currently on the 11th floor, locked in a solo deathmatch with the white-haired Baek Jun-soo. Shock doesn't even describe it. Ozra is panicking about the captain, but Suri is drowning in all the chaotic reports coming through the monitors. As she scans for the captain with the mustache, her eyes suddenly go wide with pure disbelief. There, on one of the screens, is Lady Heron chained up and held captive inside the very building they are trying to take down. Suri was once a trainee under the Dausa, so she recognizes her and hits the intercom. Heron is skeptical until Suri admits she is the successor who famously ran away. That shared history? It is the bridge they needed. Heron realizes why Suri is here. It is because of Taiha. But she is a realist and warns her that she is not strong enough for a rescue. There is a monster raised by Baek Junu Dogyeong Han stalking the halls right now. Heron gives one final, desperate order. Suri needs to get a message to the Yan family head. This is way bigger than just a kidnapping now. Meanwhile, the lobby is pure carnage. Ozra and Gwangugu are pinned down behind a desk, taking heavy pistol fire from the guards. Ozra is losing it. Their captain is upstairs fighting a legend one-on-one while they are stuck in a stalemate down here. Guangsugu realizes the weight of the moment. It is almost impossible to believe our boy is actually holding his own against the company's strongest man. But then, the pressure suddenly breaks as a silhouette blurs through the air behind the enemy line. Captain Vu Kim appears like a ghost, painting the floor red with a lethal slash that completely decimates the guards. With Vu Kim and the vice chairman finally linking up, the team feels a spark of hope, but the odds are still stacked against them. They are still outnumbered. Vu Kim reveals our hero promised to finish his duel in 10 minutes and only 5 are left. If he is not back by the time the clock hits 0, they have to pull out, even if it means leaving their leader behind. But their exit plan just got slammed shut. Pyong Wonho arrives with a nightmare elite tactical soldiers called the Young Mud. Guangsugu is horrified. These guys are an unofficial armed force, and their presence is a massive violation of the rules. The command is simple and cold: take 0 hostages and kill everyone in the lobby. Knowing they can't win a head-on war, Vu Kim tells Ozra to get the vice chairman out. But upstairs, they still believe their captain will win. He is the master they have pledged their lives to, and they know he will return. But high on the 36th floor, it is disturbingly quiet. You won't believe what happens when Jin Chong finally breaches the chairman's office. It's not a palace. It's a cluttered dump of old electronics. He mocks his family for keeping such a mess, noting that their obsession with staying humble was probably the only virtue they ever had. Mundane stands guard, desperately urging the new chairman to flee before the loyalists fight their way to the very top. With Dojong Han busy after dealing with Hin, Mundane realizes she is the only thing standing between Jin Taiha and her boss. She cannot hold him alone. Jin Chong just laughs. Convinced Baek Jun-soo is invincible, he sits down and grabs an old red rotary phone, explaining it is a direct line to the emperors. When asked about his endgame, Chong reveals he has no intention of being just one of 5 rulers in this small country. Instead, he plans to take over the Osangpa by recruiting powerful monsters like Chan Human and the legendary Baek Jun-soo. Since these organizations only respect raw power, he intends to use them to erase every other member of the committee forever. He wants to be the nation's sole emperor, a secret deal he made with Baek Jun-soo. Meanwhile, on the 11th floor, we see the brutal cost of that ambition. Jin Tae-ha is drenched in blood, gasping for air while clutching a gore-stained knife in a state of pure, agonizing pain. Baek Jun-soo towers over him, his white hair splattered with blood, yet his posture remains perfectly calm and completely unshakable. Back in the office, Mundane stares at the chairman in total disbelief after hearing the details of his insane new strategy. He wants to partner with the Five Stars faction, the same terrorists who killed the president and brought the entire nation to its knees. Since this syndicate only respects strength, Chong stays calm while dialing the red phone. He explains that these people are nothing more than a pack of beasts. He believes that to control beasts, you just have to kill their leader. He smirks, noting that even the disciplined Baek Jun-soo understood this necessity. This is exactly why the enforcer spent years training a successor within the Special Operations Division to take over one day. Back in the lobby, the air screams with the sound of clashing steel. Our hero and Baek Jun-soo are locked in a lethal duel. Their movements are so fast they leave trails of dust cutting across the dark, cold floor of the lobby. Jun-soo's power is overwhelming. He lands a massive kick that sends our boy reeling across the floor. He skids backward, barely able to push himself back up. Jun-soo watches him, realizing that while Tae-ha lacks strength and stamina, he has one terrifying gift that cannot be blocked: pure, instantaneous speed. Tae-ha lunges forward with explosive energy, but Jun-soo uses his decades of combat experience to read the coming strike with ease. The speed is blinding, but Jun-soo uses Tae-ha's own momentum to flip him over his shoulder, slamming him headfirst into the hard concrete. Jun-soo stands tall, thinking back on how he mastered every martial art in history for one purpose: absolute total conquest. But even with all that mastery, he realizes something strange. He has not landed a single clean, decisive hit on the boy yet. Our hero backs away, gasping for air as blood drips from his face. He realizes Jun-soo isn't just a fighter, he's a professional killer hunter. Tae-ha knows the truth. If his reactions were even a fraction of a second slower, his skull would have been crushed by now. But his hands still work, and that is all he needs. He lets out a roar and charges back into the fight. He never uses the same move twice, mixing Muay Thai, Aikido, and boxing to keep the enforcer from ever finding a steady rhythm. Jun-soo is impressed by this kid's resolve, but his hand stays steady as their blades clash. Then, our hero reveals why he won't quit. Jun-soo spent years in a training hall, but Tae-ha spent 17 years in the dirt, risking his life for one thing: revenge. This is where you and I see the gap in their experience pay off. Jun-soo realizes he's been played when a knife falls into Tae-ha's hand. He didn't lose the weapon at all. He threw it there on purpose just to create this one perfect opening for the kill. He remembers his mentor Regina Cerno, who taught him to endure until the very last flicker of life remains in his tired body. She told him that by hiding his emotions and waiting for a 0.1 second window, he could unleash truly unstoppable power. Back in the present, he grips the knife and delivers a massive leaping slash. A cross of blood erupts as he finally cuts through Jun-soo. But then, as blood pours from the massive wound, something insane happens. Baek Jun-soo actually begins to smile at his opponent. He looks up and speaks his final words. After 17 years of blood, the young master has finally found his answer. Even in defeat, he sees victory, because the rightful heir has finally proven that he is the ultimate predator in this dark and cruel world. Back in 1988, while thousands of white balloons filled the sky for the Seoul Olympics, a dark tragedy was unfolding in Incheon-dong. A massive city renewal project meant the Olympic anthems were drowned out by the roar of excavators tearing through people's family homes. Real estate sharks in designer suits moved in, causing neighbors to turn on each other as the neighborhood split into warring factions. Tragedy struck when Jun-soo's father was beaten to death by hired thugs wielding steel pipes. He was left completely alone. In that nightmare, his older sister stood firm. She told young Baek Jun-soo that they didn't have time for tears anymore. With their father gone, she became his hero, working tirelessly to support him while never letting her own dreams or grades fade. Jun-soo realized he had nothing but his own strength. He spent his days delivering papers and his nights hauling scrap metal for her. You and I are about to witness a tragedy. Soo-hyun spent her nights studying by candlelight, dreaming of becoming a brilliant semiconductor engineer. She wanted to change the world, recording every ambition in a diary with a fountain pen from her father. But then, those dreams were ripped away. After her exams, our boy Jun-soo returns home with a celebratory cake, only to find the entire block swallowed by a violent orange inferno. The truth was horrifying. Punks had torched the neighborhood, starting with their home. Jun-soo charged into the flames, but he was already too late. In the dirt, he finds a young stranger named Jin Seyoko, covered in raw, agonizing burns from head to toe. Even as the fire melted the flesh off his own back, Seyoko had tried to save her. Jun-soo could only cradle her charred remains and scream. The next morning, the grieving Jun-soo was gone. In his place stood a terrifying force of pure vengeance. He single-handedly tore through a line of riot police and thugs, leaving 11 men dead with shattered skulls and ruptured organs. To save the image of the Olympics, the government erased his records and buried the case. But in a dark room, a mysterious woman approached the broken young man. Recognizing his terrifying potential, she snatched him from the gallows and sold him to an elite overseas kill squad called Ordo Nox. For 10 years, he climbed over bodies to become an executive-level assassin known to the underworld as Tacitus. He finally retired, but on one condition: he must never set foot outside of South Korea again. Driven by a cold desire for justice, he returns to Seoul to hunt the monsters who built luxury towers over his sister's grave. His bloody path leads him straight to the high-rise headquarters of the massive Cheonggu Group. He infiltrates the chairman's office and presses a blade to the throat of Jin Seoko. But everything changes when the man looks into his eyes and bursts into tears. The chairman had been searching for Jun-soo for a decade, begging for death to end the guilt of failing to save her. Jun-soo pulls back the man's collar and sees them, the horrific burn scars from 17 years ago. This changed everything. The truth finally comes out. Seoko didn't order the fire. The state had rushed the demolition behind his back, turning the project into a massacre. He had personally pulled Soo-hyun from the inferno with his bare hands, a memory that has haunted every second of his life. Remembering his sister's dream, Jun-soo sees that same fire in Seyoko's eyes. He decides to spare the man. This wasn't the monster he sought. Stick with me, because this part is deep. He hands over the pen, telling the chairman to prove he can change the world without selling his soul. Jin Seyoko vows to cherish that pen forever. It wasn't just a tool anymore, it was a vessel for their shared noble mission. He promises to build a company that serves the people. From the shadows, a younger Jun-soo hears the vow before disappearing back into the night. He knew he couldn't keep that pen. He didn't feel worthy of it. After 10 years of spilling blood, the weight of his sins was too heavy. He feared that holding such a pure keepsake would let his sister's light drag him back from the darkness. Instead, Jun-soo turned back toward the raw violence of his reality. He enters a restaurant to confront 2 men from the Insane crew. The real hunt for the truth starts right here. He drops one of them instantly. As a woman screams, a mob of aggressive thugs rises to take him down. What they didn't know: he's a professional. Jun-soo watches them with cold detachment. He realizes his decade of training for revenge against these small-time rats has become a hollow pursuit. He beckons them all forward. Within moments, the restaurant is nothing but shattered tables and unconscious bodies. Amidst the carnage, a man in a white suit walks in. This is Park Do-cheol, the legendary first-in-command of the Oyangpa. He likes Jun-soo's style and asks for a name. When Jun-soo asks if he's the boss of these thugs, Do-cheol just confirms it with a smile. Jun-soo lunges with a punch, but for the first time in his life, someone catches his fist like it was nothing. Jun-soo finally looks at his opponent clearly. This man's eyes radiate a terrifying tiger-like vitality that stops him in his tracks. They clash for 40 intense minutes while the other executives just watch. Eventually, Jun-soo falls to his knees, utterly defeated. He'd never met a human with such monstrous strength using only bare fists. Expecting the end, he tells Do-cheol to finish the job. But the legend just laughs. To him, the fight felt like a trip to an amusement park. He demands to know Jun-soo's story. Exhausted, Jun-soo explains his quest. But then comes the twist. His original enemies? They were already swallowed up by the Oyangpa long ago. Jun-soo calls him just another thug, but Do-cheol only roars with laughter at the insult. He argues that status is irrelevant if you have the power to protect your purpose. They use force to stop corruption when the law fails. Surprisingly, he lets Jun-soo walk away. He tells his subordinates that the kid has earned the right to find his own path. With his revenge finished, Jun-soo returns to Seyoko and becomes his bodyguard. He's curious to see how the man will grow the company. For years, he watches as the chairman builds an empire beyond reproach, showing absolute loyalty to those who stayed true to him. While his own children scheme for power, the group becomes the global leader his sister always dreamed of, but the peace wouldn't last. As the years pass, the chairman begins to wither. He turns a blind eye to corruption and stops looking toward the future. What happened to his spark? Seeing his chance, Wo-jin struts in with a smirk. The committee finally wants Cheonggu on board. This news sends Seyoko into a blind rage. He still sees his sister dying in those state-sponsored fires. He hates corporations playing God with the country. But then, Jun-soo uncovers the chairman's dark secret. It isn't just exhaustion, it's terminal cancer. He realized the old man was letting corruption slide just to protect his heir. Even as the company faced total collapse, Seyoko never wavered. He trusted his people to rise again. He finally picked his third son, Jin Soo-huk, for a single purpose: to forge the legendary Jin Taiha. But the rot inside was moving way too fast. Guho Jin cornered Jun-soo, demanding he join the coup. He claimed the Awangpa leader still remembered him. Jun-soo had already made a soul-crushing choice to protect the dream. To save everything, he had to look the chairman in the eye and lie. He claimed he couldn't join the world tour, using his sister's death anniversary as a perfect cover. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Junu stood alone. He knew exactly where he was headed. He accepted the deepest pit of hell just to keep the legacy alive. The yacht exploded into a ball of fire under the pouring rain. He swore to guard that dream, even if it meant burning forever in the blackest flames. Years ago, Jin Seoko stood in a quiet forest of falling maple leaves. He was dying, and he feared his entire empire would crumble into nothing the moment he was gone. Baek Junwoo. Standing right there in the clearing, he knew no one could match the chairman's vision. The kids and subordinates, they weren't loyal to the company. They were just too terrified to climb the mountain that was Seoko. This weakness was a target. Junsu knew if a predator like Park Dukol attacked, the whole firm would be devoured in seconds. Now, back in the present, Baek Junwoo stands in a dark hallway. Blood is literally dripping from the stump of his missing arm. He knows the only way to save the legacy is to infiltrate the committee. He has to play their game until he can seize the power himself. With that cold focus, he launches a massive shadowed kick. Our protagonist is sent flying through the air like a ragdoll. Taiha's ribs shatter. A scream of pure agony escapes him. He's been training, but the enforcer? He's somehow gotten even faster and more lethal. Our hero drags himself up, gasping for air. How did that strike do so much damage through a block? He barely slides under the next hit, only to take a devastating blow straight to the gut. Blood sprays from his mouth, but he doesn't stop. He swings a vertical slash with pure murderous intent. He's done with fear. Only those afraid to die are easy to break. But strangely, Junsu's every move was just a way to buy more time. Using that weakling, Jin Guho was just a smokescreen. He was waiting for a real successor, someone with more power than even he possessed. Back in the fight, Taiha is hunched over, holding his bleeding side. His ribs are so trashed, he's worried his internal organs are about to spill out. But he screams at himself to keep moving. This pain? He's been waiting for this exact moment of judgment from the very start. He charges through the blood spray. Watching the young hero sprint toward him, Junsu can't help but let a knowing smile slip. He remembers when the psycho Jin Xiang mocked him. Why was a man with Junsu's massive ambitions staying so quiet and obedient? Chiang was a man who killed his own brother. He told Junsu to stop playing nice and just devour the entire committee from the inside. Junsu was fascinated. He saw Chiang as a necessary evil for the company, a man who could actually leap over the walls of the old world. During that meeting, Chang pulled up footage from a gunship. Taiha was alive. He was on a mafia ship, and Chiang saw him as a loose end that needed to be cut for good. But Junwoo just closed the laptop. He told them to leave the boy alone. He figured the mafia was brutal enough to finish the job. Now, the duel hits its absolute limit. Baek Junsu goes for a high vertical kick, but our hero strikes back with a desperation that breaks all logic. Taiha bites down hard on his neck. He lunges behind him immediately. He drives his tactical blades through the enforcer from both sides. He twists the steel until blood erupts. As the light fades, Junsu remembers that final laugh from Jin Chang. Chang had ordered him to take out the old man and then kill our hero to hide the evidence. Junsu lied and said it was done, but he never intended to kill the boy. He believed that if Taiha was the real deal, he'd survive the hellfire and find a way back. Now, with blood splattered across his face, Junwoo realizes he's actually won. The master's bloodline is pure. This brilliance, this complete lack of fear, it's all there. Our hero survived hell and climbed the very walls Junsu spent a lifetime building. In the fading sunlight of his mind, he sees the child who inherited that genius intellect. The boy is finally walking his own path as a true warrior. One final, screaming slash from the young master, Junwoo realizes his long apology to the chairman is finally over. The legacy of the great Baek Junwoo ends right here. His severed head tumbles across the executive floor in total silence. In those last seconds of consciousness, the fallen enforcer thinks back on his twisted bond with the late Jin Seoko. That day in the fire was the point of no return. While Seoko built a massive empire, Junwoo lived a double life. He hated how soft the chairman was getting over the years. He still wonders, did Seoko know about the betrayal? Or was he just that blind? He thought the chairman's kindness was just weakness. He judged him. But staring at that fountain pen in Taiha's bloody hand, he realizes he was the one on trial. Seoko had seen everything. He evaluated Junsu and decided he was never ever going to be the future of this company. He accepts it. Junsu left a future behind he could never follow. Inside the hall, silence is heavy as our hero falls to his knees, gasping for air. This is just the beginning. He won the duel, but Jintaha is a wreck, bruised, bloodied, and huffing in total, bone-deep exhaustion. He's lost a dangerous amount of blood and worries he won't make it to the others. But what he doesn't know is that the situation downstairs, it's falling apart fast. Team Black is trapped, pinned down by heavy tactical gear and soldiers. Kong is struggling just to stay alive against a relentless, brutal barrage of machine gun fire. They're being crushed by superior equipment. The pressure on the loyalists has officially reached a deadly breaking point. Vi Kim checks his watch. 11 minutes have passed. They are way past the time they agreed on. Since our boy hasn't returned, he logically assumes the worst: the mission failed and the young master is dead. He's forced to issue a heartbreaking order to retreat and save his remaining men. Gwangsugu is in pure shock, screaming they can't leave yet, but Vo Kim stays firm. He believes that if Baek Junwoo walks through those doors now, the entire team is finished. But then, the elevator rings. The sinister Do Young-han is standing right there inside. Our bloodied hero sits slumped, desperately begging his body to move because he knows someone is coming. Suddenly, a figure stands tall over him, and Taiha looks up. He knows this face. Downstairs, the panic hits a peak. Gwangsugu tries to hold the line for one more minute, but Vo Kim yanks him back, screaming that they have to face the failure. Suddenly, a blur dashes through the lobby, stopping the retreat. Nameless appears out of nowhere, carrying a bloodied and unconscious Jin Taiha on his back. He screams at the team for hesitating and drops the impossible truth. Baek Jun-soo is dead, and Taiha is the one who killed him. This revelation leaves the rival guards frozen in total disbelief. Their world is shattered. The pillar of their power has finally completely collapsed. While the loyalists scramble to get out, the scene upstairs is chillingly quiet. Do Young-han stands alone before the severed head of the man who mentored him. He touches his chest with a puzzled look, wondering if the death of the man who raised him finally means that he is free. There is no grief here. He just smirks through the blood on his face and walks away. But outside, the escape is nearly thwarted by the weight of the pursuit. Vi Kim offers to stay and hold the line as penance for doubting our hero, but Gwangsugu refuses to let him play the martyr. Since the company's future is on the younger generation, Gwanggu reminds Vi that he needs to stay alive and serve the young master. The veteran loyalist decides to make a final stand alone. Reflecting on his journey from the slums to the top, he entrusts the company to the group and faces the guards with a dark, defiant smile. As the group escapes, they are intercepted in the garage. A white sedan screeches to a halt right in front of them. Japel Kim, the underboss of the Oang faction, looks out from the back seat and offers his assistance. They're suspicious, but Japel explains the cold logic of it all. He realizes that if our protagonist dies now, Changgu's lies will deceive the council and destroy the entire balance of power. Because he never places a losing bet, Japel decides to shield the heir and ensure the truth survives. The news finally reaches the 36th floor. Mundane receives the phone report confirming the unthinkable Jin Taiha has actually killed Baek Junwoo. This reality shatters the chairman's composure. In a fit of manic rage, he slams his red rotary phone down and screams our hero's name at the top of his lungs. Inside the quiet Bowman Goob restaurant, the chaos of the coup is replaced by the rhythmic steady beep of a medical intravenous drip. In a back room, Jin Taiha lies unconscious and heavily bandaged. Aunt Nana just finished emergency surgery, explaining that a fractured rib fragment had actually pierced through his large bowel. Luckily, the hematoma wasn't life-threatening, but she is keeping him on antibiotics to stop any infection. Since Taiha is the rightful heir, his safety is now a massive, dangerous political liability. Japel Kim is in the kitchen when Nana suggests taking the boy to a real hospital to avoid a deadly infection. Japel logically concludes he cannot move him. If his faction is seen providing medical care to the man who dismantled the leadership, they will be accused of orchestrating the entire coup themselves. Nana mocks the idea of thugs playing politics, but Japel stays focused on the blood they would lose if they didn't use their brains. Before stepping into the alley, he offers Nana a prestigious university professorship, but she slams her knife into the board. She saves lives as a hobby. Outside, Japel meets with the loyalists and reassures them that our boy just needs rest. As he drives away, he leaves a message for the hero to join him for a smoke once he wakes up. However, as the luxury car speeds through the market, Japel's inner monologue reveals a much darker calculation. He reflects on how Taiha isn't just an extraordinary killer, but a royal with the negotiation skills and the tactical mind to swallow the entire corporate world whole. Since Taiha killed the legendary Baek Junwoo in the heart of the company, Japel realizes the boy is the real deal. This leads him to a chilling question. If our hero is powerful enough to overthrow the entire system, would it be safer to just kill him now? Japel calls for an immediate meeting with his executives. Back at the table, the atmosphere is heavy with paranoia. Gray urgently argues that the group needs to evacuate the district immediately. When the loyalists question the logic of moving a wounded man, Gray points out just how suspicious their hideout really is. He asks why Japel, who manages 30 hospitals, would bring a patient to a gray zone restaurant that serves blood sausage. Because this area is lawless neutral ground, Gray realizes they are only safe as long as they are useful. The moment that utility fades, they will be wiped out. To secure their future, Gray holds up a USB drive containing the last month of secret CCTV footage. This changes everything. In this world, information is the ultimate currency. While some trade secrets for survival, you and I are about to see a far more dangerous negotiation unfolding deep underground. Vice Chairman Gwang-hoo Yang is forced onto public transit, standing over a man lounging across the seats. Meet Min Chong-ho, the powerhouse of the Dobang Association. Hai mockingly asks if the corporate luxury cars finally ran out, but Yang refuses to bite. He has much bigger problems right now. With desperate eyes, the vice chairman begs Hai for help. His goal? Placing our protagonist onto the chairman's throne at any cost. Hai just laughs, demanding 1.3 billion for a past incident. Yang agrees instantly, but then, he offers a trade that changes everything. If Ho backs the young master, Young will help him eliminate the current Dobang chairman and take that throne for himself. Every man on the train draws a gun. This is cold ambition. Hai lowers his shades, his predatory eye fixed on the old man's bravery. Elsewhere, a deadly silence falls over the traditional estate of the Yan clan as night begins to take over the world. High above, Yunsuri is suspended by invisible wires. This is the work of the clan chief, Baek Chung Yan, who welcomes her home with a sneer. Sori fled this place years ago. Now, the chief suggests she only returned to die for her past wrongs and betrayal. But Sori isn't blinking. Bound in midair, she glares at the deranged hag and tells her to cut the act and open the doors. Now, pay attention. Because inside the Yan clan training grounds, a tense negotiation begins over a cup of high-grade Hadong tea. Baek Chung Yan praises the refined flavor, mocking those who settle for cheap street coffee. It is a power play in every single sip. Suri Yun refuses to relax. She is on a strict and dangerous mission from the imprisoned Lady Heron. She demands an audience with the head of the clan, but Baek Chung is skeptical of her words. The chief cannot believe Heron was defeated, wondering if her lack of a sword was her downfall. Suri explains she saw it all via CCTV. But Baek Chung remains dismissive, calling Heron's loyalty to Taha foolish. She sets a firm boundary to move forward. As a second-rank official, she must be the one to judge if Siri's message is even worth the clan head's time. When Siri resists, Baek's gaze turns lethal. She threatens to rip the girl's tongue out for playing these little games. She points out a fatal flaw. If this were truly Heron's message, Siri would know the protocol for rank officials. Siri remembers Heron's warning. This message is of the utmost importance and must stay hidden from anyone below the third rank. But Heron had a backup plan. If Siri were not welcomed, she had to ask for Baek Chung specifically to get a response. Realizing her mind games failed, Suri finally delivers the cryptic code. So stands overturned. The atmosphere shifts instantly. Baek recognizes these words. They signal that a coup has already happened. She agrees to deliver the news, but Suri is now a prisoner. She was never going to walk away from this estate alive. The Yan clan has kept its exclusivity for over 1,000 years, tracing back to the legendary Manhwa cadets. She admits she only tolerated Suriri's rebellion because she knew the defector would eventually return. Suri clenches her fist. She stays, but only if she can see her father and if the clan helps Taya just once. It is a personal plea to Baek Chung, fueled by the debt of gratitude she owes for Taiha saving her hometown. Baek Chung finds the request self-righteous. Why would a high-ranking official care about such petty matters? Suri catches her master's interests, suggesting Baek Chung keeps her around out of pure desire. They walk past young trainees practicing in the garden. The clan scouts children with exceptional potential, starting as young as 4. They are trained to be elite warriors or intellectual diplomats. Only those with beauty, strength, and intellect are chosen to join. They are brought in young. Baek notes she was a rare exception at 17, while Suri was 19 when scouted. Suddenly, Baek Chung uses her invisible wires to snatch the young trainees, suspending them all in the air. She tells Suri she would sacrifice these children without a thought for a talent like hers. Now, the lethal exercise begins. 8 complex wire knots. If Suri fails to unravel them, the children will fall to their deaths or be strangled. Suri can only glare in fury, calling her master an evil woman as she prepares to fight for their lives. A few days later, the scene shifts to a restaurant. Gray and Aunt Nana are mocking the protagonist with a tepid drink. Jintae finally wakes up, still connected to an IV, looking at the strange iced Americano with complete bewilderment. His confusion turns to annoyance as news reports announce that the new chairman, Jin Chang, is preparing his speech. Surrounded by Vi Kim and his allies, our hero acknowledges that while he is back, he feels absolutely terrible. In the assembly hall, Jin Chong addresses thousands. His inauguration speech feels less like an address and more like a declaration of war. He vows to lead the company into a global era while honoring the footsteps of the founder. But then, his tone turns manic. He grips his eagle head cane, and trust me, nothing will ever be the same. A massive speech is going viral. The message is simple: Chunggu will never bow to terrorism, and no matter how dark things get, the company's light stays on. But we know the truth. Back at the restaurant, our hero watches the broadcast with the crew. Gray mocks the aggressive speech, but Vui Kim sees the cold logic behind it. They know the storm is just beginning. With the main executives gone and the enemy dead, the company is desperate. They are just trying to rally whatever forces they have left. Despite the bandage on his face and his deep wounds, our boy isn't resting. He's only focused on one thing: the fate of Guanggu. Since Guanggu isn't on the official casualty list, Taiha tells Gray to keep hunting. He needs a body if the man is dead. While our hero heals, the rest of the team stays busy. Wee Kim explains that the vice chairman has gone to call in some favors. He's leveraging personal ties with the association to secure a win. The logic is simple: the chairmanship means nothing if you don't have the support of the council members who actually run the country. Meanwhile, Yunsuri has returned to her roots at the Yan clan. She's on a double mission, exposing a kidnapping while recruiting the masters who taught her everything. Alliances are shifting. A message arrives from the faction boss inviting our protagonist back to the cigar lounge for a little chat. Aunt Nana warns him that a single fall could be his last, and the crew smells a trap. But our hero is going anyway. His years in the mafia taught him one thing: confidence is half the battle. He is committed to this path. He slides on his suit jacket and black gloves, telling his men to have a little faith. His caution pays off. In the parking lot, Taiha and Vui Kim are intercepted by two high-ranking thugs, number 12 and number 19 of the enemy faction. One thug tries to force them to change locations, threatening to beat our hero into submission if he doesn't comply. The other adds that they have orders to kill him if he resists. Vui Kim prepares to scrap, but our protagonist stays ice cold. He sees smoke drifting from the lounge. He knows his real target is already waiting inside. As Taiha heads for the door, the thugs lunge to stop him. But then, the hero's specialist team intervenes in the blink of an eye. Nameless strikes from the shadows, pinning one thug with a neurotoxin blade. When a giant swings a bat at our boy, Irakang steps in. He blocks the strike and drops the giant with one massive punch. Vui Kim and the others take a stand against the remaining thugs. This is pure, absolute loyalty on display. They have total faith in their master. They'll hold the line so he can have his meeting. Inside, a loud laugh echoes through the lounge. The big boss, Dukil Park, is mocking his subordinate. He can't believe they're testing a man strong enough to kill a legendary fighter. Dukil waves our hero over, introducing himself as the faction's number 2. Taiha ignores the small talk. He picks out a specific cigar and sits down. The subordinate tries to apologize, claiming the parking lot fight was just a show to make this meeting look like a coincidence. But our hero doesn't care about small talk. He lights up and looks at the man, telling him to get out of the room. He knows who holds the real power. Taiha dismisses the subordinate so the adults can finally have a real conversation. This bold move catches everyone off guard, but the big boss allows it. The subordinate leaves to check on the men outside, wishing them a fruitful talk. Once they're alone, Dukil leans in and shares a dark secret. It turns out the underboss was once a righteous prosecutor until the faction murdered his entire family. Driven by revenge, the man blew up the former boss in a car explosion. When he was caught, he screamed that he'd create a world where beasts couldn't survive. The boss found that fire interesting. So, instead of killing him, he brought the former prosecutor into the fold. Strangely, our hero isn't impressed by the story. He notes the faction is out of control and wonders why they're even bothering with this merger. Dukil just laughs it off, calling it youthful ambition for world domination. Check this out. Outside the lounge, things have reached a weird stalemate. Since both sides are high-level professionals, Taiha's team and the thugs have actually become pretty friendly. They're trading cigarettes and comparing tactical knives. One guy even asks where to buy a blade like that. The underboss watches this, wondering what the hell is happening. Vui Kim thanks him for the info regarding the board meeting, but the underboss stays focused on the task at hand. He warns the men to stay back because the boss's whims are lethal. When Nameless takes it as a threat, the logic is clarified. The boss wants to recruit them, but if they refuse or fail to impress him, they aren't leaving this place alive. He reminds them that the legendary fighter they killed was only respected because he faced the boss and survived. Back inside, the boss gets straight to the point. He acknowledges Taiha as the heir and offers a deal. Work for him, and he'll deliver the enemy's head by the end of the day. But there's a catch. Even if our protagonist becomes chairman, the company will be barred from the council forever because the boss said so. Our hero counters with cold logic. Revenge is a personal duty. The enemy's death only matters if he delivers the killing blow himself. Plus, he makes it clear where his loyalties really lie. His roots are now with the Cerno family in Italy. He decides the boss won't interfere with his revenge. So, he boldly tells the old man he's free to leave in peace. Arrogance triggers a monster. A massive surge of killing intent erupts from Dukil, looming over the table like a nightmare. He screams at our hero, wondering how a wounded man dares to challenge him. Taiha doesn't even flinch. He exhales a slow puff of smoke and reminds them they aren't wild animals who should be causing a scene in a place this nice. Suddenly, a terrified waiter interrupts, breaking the tension and forcing Dukil to laugh off his lethal excitement. Seeing that predator-like conviction in our boy's eyes, the Oang leader decides to let him live, acknowledging that this hero is the real deal. As they wrap up, Dukil orders Taiha to expose the truth of the Chaeyoung coup to the council members. Taiha stands firm, making it clear they can play politics all they want, but anyone blocking his revenge will be erased. Meanwhile, at the funeral hall, the air is thick with the scent of incense and the weight of 1,000 white lies. Everything revolves around the memorial portrait of the fallen master. With the legendary Byac Junsu gone, the pillar of their world has crumbled. Doyoung Han stands alone before the altar in silence while a sea of guards behind him press their faces to the cold floor. But even this massive display of grief cannot hide the absolute panic starting to set in among the survivors. The executives whisper in a panic, wondering if their empire can even survive now that their legendary shield has been crushed in a one-on-one duel. Suddenly, the funeral silence is shattered by a heavy footstep. The mourners freeze as Dukil Park, the terrifying boss of the own faction, walks in while casually puffing on a cigar. When a terrified official demands respect for the dead, this high-ranking gangster just sneers, asking for a bottle of soju instead of giving an apology. His presence sends a massive wave of shock through the entire crowd. Even through the tension, they realize that the boss showing up in person confirms the legendary rivalry between him and the late master was very real. Dukal's tribute is as savage as his reputation. He sits cross-legged before the altar and stabs his lit cigar right into the incense pot next to the traditional sticks. He smashes the top off a soju bottle with his bare hand, chugging from the jagged glass before flashing a dark grin at the dead man's portrait. He tells the portrait that since a real warrior took him out, he has nothing to be ashamed of in the afterlife. But get this, the owing faction isn't just here for a drink. Their underboss watches as Dukal suddenly shifts his predatory gaze toward the rest of the terrified mourners. The air turns lethal as Dukal barks a warning, telling these little punks to go hide like rats in their tiny corporate building. He grins, declaring that until he says otherwise, killing trash like them isn't even a crime in this country anymore. But as he turns to leave, he is suddenly blocked by the towering, silent figure of Do-young Han. The two monsters lock eyes in a heavy, suffocating stalemate. Dukal's smile returns, finding it hilarious that people are challenging him 2 days in a row. He leans in, asking why a beast like Do-young is bothering to wear a human mask, sensing the explosive violence hidden beneath that suit. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, the council is busy asserting its absolute authority inside a massive circular fortress. So Hyan, a top official from the Yang clan, stands before the new chairman, Chiang Jin. She delivers a chilling decree. In 14 days he must appear before the council to justify his bloody rise to power. To make sure he obeys, she hands him a vial of poison. No antidote means a slow, agonizing death in 2 weeks. But Chiang Jin just grins at the threat, sending her into a total rage. She drops the act, admitting she would rather kill him right now. She warns him that even if the council clears him, if he touches her, he will be ripped to shreds. Instead of showing any fear, Chiang Jin bursts out laughing, grabs the vial, and to her horror, shatters the glass right between his teeth. He mocks their rules, claiming they have no idea what he and Junsu actually built here. While the chairman loses his mind, Do-young Han returns to a quiet apartment. As he steps into the shower, we see his back as a jagged map of horrific battle scars. These marks are the brutal remnants of his past under Baek Junsu, a man who ordered him to forget freedom and live a life of total obedience. Because Junsu once banned him from killing, knowing Do-young enjoyed the slaughter far too much, the guard has lived a life of suffocating restraint. But then, the rules of his world began to change. Do-young presses his palm against a hidden wall, revealing a glowing display of 3 lethal blades. In the darkness, surrounded by monitors tracking every single one of his enemies, he slowly draws a sword. Back at the hall, Chiang Jin stands there with blood dripping from his torn lips. He has one final terrifying message for the council. He will play their game for now, but if they help Taiha, they are dead men walking. Meanwhile, in a dark alley, the silence is shattered by a lethal ambush. Do-young Han moves faster than the eye can follow, using twin blades to butcher 2 thugs before they can even finish their threats. This cold efficiency leaves the enemy leader in total shock as he watches his elite men coughing up blood. After years of deep cover ops overseas, Azra is stunned that someone tracked his movements so easily. But what he didn't know was that a simple glance at a nearby wall revealed the logic of his defeat. He forgot about the local security cameras. Do-young doesn't hesitate, charging forward with a curved blade to finish the job. The alley erupts into a clash of steel, but this fight is completely one-sided. Even as a veteran, Azra can't find a single opening in the younger man's defense. The truth hits him hard. Do-young isn't just playing with him, he is the true monstrous successor to their fallen legend. With one final, precise strike, Do-young Han slits his throat, ending it instantly. As the killer walks away, the dying man uses his last bit of strength to reach for the wall. He realizes he has to warn our hero, because this man is the real deal. Meanwhile, the internal crisis has hit a breaking point. High up in a corporate office, reports flood in that the Ong faction has launched a total blockade against their company. Their rivals have shut down every club and triggered supplier strikes. The leadership is paralyzed, and things are about to get much worse. You and I both know that when things go south, they go south fast. 8,000 employees, including top department heads, all quit in just 3 days. But the new chairman, Jin Chang, is actually smiling. To him, this isn't a disaster, it's just the fireworks for a brand new era. Boom! A massive explosion rocks the building, turning the 36th floor chairman's office into total debris. Jin Chang explains the blast with chilling nonchalance. He felt the old office just smelled bad, and decided total destruction was the only way to clean the place out. He uses the smoke to announce Changgu 2.0, a radical plan to kill off all outdated traditions. Part of this purge? He's disbanding the security team and moving everyone to the Yanggu core. Pyong Won-ho confirms the days of knife fighting are over, they're now the heavily armed Black Tech PMC. Jin Chang warns his remaining executives to stop whining and get the staff back to work, or he'll start treating them like useless cattle. Later that night, the tension shifts back to the office as Do Young-han arrives, carrying a mysterious blue cooler box. He thumps the box onto the table, revealing Ozra's severed head inside. Jin Chang is revolted not by the murder, but by the smell on his expensive suit. He mockingly asks if Do Young is satisfied now, but the guard just lunges forward and grabs the chairman's face like a vice. Jin Chang doesn't even blink. He reminds the killer that his specific training ensures he can never actually kill the chairman. He mocks Do Young's rage, suggesting the guard is just mad that our main character stole his chance to kill Junsu personally, because attacking the Jangseo district too early would trigger a war they can't win against the Owen and Yang clans. Jin Chang orders Do Young to stay away for 2 weeks. He tells the killer to just pick off anyone leaving the district while they wait for the Younggu to be ready. But then, he gives one final, sharp permission. If the urge gets too strong, Do Young should just drag our hero out and end him in public. Back with the allies, Voi Kim and our protagonist stand shocked before a white delivery truck. Aunt Nana found the truck parked outside with Ozra's body inside. Voi Kim has crushed a top-tier special ops leader like Ozra shouldn't have been taken down this easily. But then, he spots a specific code smeared in blood on the body, a secret signal used only by their elite unit. They translate the message, and the truth hits hard. The successor in the note isn't our hero, it's a warning about Do Young-han. Looking at his fallen allies, our hero realizes the enemy is using these brutal murders to bait him into a final lethal showdown. Now the focus shifts to a high-stakes strategy session between our hero and the last surviving loyalists. Vice Chairman Guanghu Yang explains the fallout. In exactly 13 days, the council will hold a formal hearing to decide if Jin Chang's takeover is even legal. Because of the insane brutality Chang showed, the vice chairman thinks his execution is certain, especially since the association is now convinced that Chang started an illegal coup. But the legal path isn't that simple. Suri, back from negotiating with the Yan clan, reports they're facing a similar mess with a few extra complications. In a flashback to the clan estate, Chief Baek Jong Yan explains how the council's regulations actually work. They follow the rules strictly, only trusting those who have proven themselves without any exceptions. Even with the security footage, the chief warns that it isn't enough evidence to mandate an immediate execution. Suri points out she delivered a message from a literal prisoner, but Baekjeong isn't having it. Since Heron's kidnapping isn't tied to the coup, Chang's death isn't guaranteed, so Suri suggests they just threaten Chang to get Heron back. Baekjeong rejects that immediately. Since Chang is still on the council, Heron will be in even more danger if he dies too soon. To make sure things don't go sideways, the chief insists that Heron must testify to the council as an eyewitness. Here is the deal. If our boy can rescue Heron and bring her back within 13 days, she'll help him. This news shocks the team because Baekjeong is a total legend with a terrifying reputation. Guanghu Yang steps up to explain how powerful she really is. He tells the story of how she single-handedly executed 80 high-level leaders to punish a traitor named Gao Mei. That massive slaughter destroyed the Zhongai organization, replacing it with the association and earning the Yang clan's respect as leaders. This revelation finally clears up a mystery for our hero about his deal with Jin Kim. He remembers Jin adding a condition that the leadership of the Yabri gang go to Hu Yong Li. When Taiha asked if he was overstepping by questioning the move, Jin explained it made communication easier on the record. But off the record, it was a deadly precaution, because only one person in all of Korea has reached that level with silver wires. Our hero finally realizes that they were all reacting to Baekjeong's legendary skill. Now it's his turn to act. Taiha turns to his captive, Ingu Hong. While Hu Yong stands guard, our hero towers over the bound and kneeling executive. He explains that Jin Chang is trying to keep him busy by holding 2 people hostage, Lady Heron and his mentor, the former vice president Guang Su-gu. Since Ingu spent years climbing the ranks at Cheonggu, Taiha demands to know every secret hideout where they could be hidden. Ingu is absolutely terrified, stuttering that Chang is a merciless bastard to any traitors and will definitely hunt him down and kill him. But Guanghu Yang calls him a fool. He points out that since Do Young-han is on the move, Ingu's head is already on the chopping block. Just hearing the name of the psycho Do Young makes Ingu groan in pure horror. Even a beast like Baek Junsu can barely control him. Our boy leans in with a cold threat. If Ingu wants to keep breathing, he needs to prove he is actually useful. The locals in the Yongseo district are desperate for the director to lose his worth. Ingu finally snaps, screaming for mercy and promising to talk. Later, Taiha meets Gray at a cafe to test if his professional skills are the real deal. He gives Gray the mission. Use Ingu's intel to track down exactly where the 2 hostages are being held. Gray is stressed, arguing it is harder than it looks and Ingu might be lying. But then our hero sets the stakes. They only have 13 days. He officially makes Gray the first member of the team. As night falls over the city, the crew gets ready for the next move. Vu Kim is worried about Do Young's potential for an ambush, but our protagonist admits he is not at 100% physically. Since his injuries are still healing and he is no rescue expert, he reveals he has decided to call in some serious reinforcements. Suddenly, a massive crash echoes across the rooftop. Jerome the Aswang leaps from the shadows, grinning wildly while wielding his red staff. He mocks the hero, asking if he is finally ready to die. But our protagonist stays completely in control. Instead of a duel, Taiha invokes the ancient mafia protocols. He is hiring Jerome as a mercenary through Ordo Nox for this rescue mission. The power struggle hits the nation's capital as Jin Xiang enters the Blue House. Inside the office, Secretary Choi warns him this unannounced visit is a massive risk. Since the sect leader has a major stake in Chang's survival, Choi is forced to listen to what he has to say. Our villain skips the small talk, tapping his eagle-head cane. He demands the secretary stop acting like a coward and do his job. Chiang reveals the real plan. He has a specific prisoner that needs to be smuggled out of the country immediately. Meanwhile, the district has become a digital prison. Cameras and tracking systems are watching every single card payment and internet search. Because of this high pressure, only 2 men manage to escape the net. The first is Guanghu Yang, who has the Yang clan protecting him. He was sidelined, but after 30 years as vice chairman, he knows way too many of the council's dirty secrets for Chang to ignore. The second man is nameless. He is seen slipping through the dark back alleys for a secret rendezvous. He meets a black market tech agent named Junyuk Huang on a park bench hidden beneath a high-rise bridge. Junyuk is annoyed that Nameless cut contact after joining Special Ops. He threatens to call the company to catch the fugitive, but Nameless knows this man's greed too well. He realizes that Junyuk only sees the report as a hassle because there is no payday involved. To fix that, Nameless hands over an envelope stuffed with cash. It is equal to the agent's entire annual salary. The money talks. While Junyuk counts the bills and wonders how a fugitive is this rich, Nameless asks for the secret locations of Heron and Guanghu. Junyuk doesn't know about Guanghu, but he confirms Heron was moved to a port this morning to be shipped away. When asked why a former monitor like him would join the Loyalists, Nameless somberly admits he simply had nothing better to do. Back at the cafe, Eri Kang slams the table in a total rage. They just found out the transfer already happened today. If Heron leaves the country, finding her within 2 weeks will be impossible. Our hero turns to the map for a final deduction. Yang rules out Inshin because the council uses it as a joint hub. He excludes the other ports too. Ulsan, Pohang, and Busan are enemy territory, while Mokpo is under rival control. This is getting complicated. Since the other ports are off limits, Yang identifies Oxio Port in the East Sea as the only choice. It is a restricted zone with minimal customs, making it the perfect place to hide a human being. Our protagonist realizes the Eternal Life sect is pulling the strings. But then Nameless suggests a small boat could have been used from a tiny dock. Yang dismisses that theory. Chang would never choose something so sloppy, even when he is backed into a corner. As they plan their move, Gray bursts into the cafe in a panic. A call is coming through a tablet found on a corpse. Taiha orders him to answer. Suddenly, a glitchy video feed of Jin Chiang flickers onto the screen. The chairman mocks the entire group and shows them a bloody Junyuk. Since the agent was talking too much, Chang decided to make a brutal example. Despite the desperate screaming, Chang shoots Junyuk in the head, spraying blood across the lens. While the group is stunned by the murder, the vice chairman suggests they just hang up. He realizes Chang is just stalling for time, but the chairman smirks. He claims he has better things to do than play games. He continues to taunt them about Heron, claiming he would never move her somewhere as predictable as a shipping lane. What they didn't know is that Heron is trapped in a straitjacket inside the Co. Huai, a 30,000-ton submarine deep beneath the ocean. Chang wants a private talk with our hero. The vice chairman thinks it is just a desperate ploy, but Taiha isn't so sure. Trusting his gut, our hero asks for a moment alone. Before Gray leaves, he whispers a reminder. Every single word is being recorded. This prompts a chilling threat from Chiang through the monitor. He warns Gray he might find out exactly how his father was murdered. But our boy stays completely unfazed. He signals his team to trust him and let him handle this monster. Once they are alone, Jin Chiang begins to reflect on how on earth Taiha has managed to stay alive this long. He admits he has been mulling over how this hero still breathes. He should have died at the villa or during that meeting. But then, everything changed. Alright, you and I are watching Jin Chong lose it. He hates when plans go sideways, and honestly, he never saw Baek Junu's death coming, or the fact that these loyalist roaches are still around. With our MC laying low, the new chairman is getting twitchy. Why is a guy who usually kicks down the front door suddenly playing it so safe? He even tries to claim the legendary Jun Su went easy on the kid. That is the only way Taiha could have survived that villa bloodbath and made a comeback. He is straight up mocking our hero now. According to him, Taiha has zero plan and only kept his head through pure dumb luck. Taiha is not playing games though. He tells him to get to the point. That is when the chairman reveals his ace. He is holding Guangsu captive. He kept the old veteran alive just for this moment. The trade? Simple. Hand over the vice chairman, take your crew overseas, and maybe the old man gets released in 2 weeks. But our boy sees right through the trap. He knows they need to silence Guanghu Yang before the council hearing. This is not a trade, it is a desperate play to kill a witness. Jin Chong keeps the pressure high. He asks the million-dollar question, how long can the hero and the residents honestly survive out here? Warning him that once the bulldozers roll in for redevelopment, they are done. Their own leader will inevitably abandon them the second things get heated. He even threatens to slaughter everyone, the elders and the kids. The second the council protection is gone, it is game over. Chiang-gu controls the industry and the tech. There is literally no place on this earth for these loyalists to hide. But then, the tide turns. A subordinate rushes in with an urgent call from the Secretary of Political Affairs. But here is what they did not know: Secretary Choi is absolutely losing his mind. International powers are suddenly sniffing around because a mysterious stranger called with a secret. And trust me, this secret changes everything. This stranger found a massive stash of American-made weapons. We are talking rifles, rocket launchers, and grenades, all hidden on a secret ship docked at Okso Port. Since these were US intelligence weapons for a Black Ops mission, exposing them on a Korean ship would be a total nightmare. A scandal way bigger than anything the secretary could imagine. The caller has one demand: do not move the truck at Oxio Port onto any submarine. He does not care about the cargo itself. He just wants all that dirty Chiang-gu business kept on the land. So who is this guy? He calls himself a concerned father, but we know him as Caesar Salerno, the Don of the Salerno family. He is just chilling over a plate of pasta, casually mentioning how parents worry when kids play near water. But with his backing, this is a geopolitical disaster waiting to happen. Secretary Choi tells Jin Chong he is done. He will not touch that Okso Port side hustle with a 10-foot pole anymore. He is out, leaving the chairman in total shock. And Taiha? He is ready to pounce. He hits the chairman with a brutal hunting metaphor to explain the situation. A real hunter first pinpoints the territory and builds the walls to trap the prey inside. He looks right at the screen, showing the mark on his hand as he pulls a tactical blade. He makes one thing clear: he did not jump into their world. He trapped them in his world, and with a look that could kill, he promises that the talking is finally over. He is going to make every second of Jin's life a living hell before he delivers the final blow. Our boy just walks away with a smile, thanking the chairman for the vital information regarding Okso Port.